It is 6:01. Good morning. I'm Jonathan Schaefer from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. According to multiple reports, the Tennessee Titans are set to make 49ers Director of Player Personnel Ran Carthon their next general manager. He brings 15 years of experience to the Titans. Carthon also previously worked for the Rams and the Falcons and was a player for the Indianapolis Colts. He's the son of two-time Super Bowl champion and former New York Giants running back Maurice Carthon, who also spent time in the league as an offensive coordinator. To the hardwood, number 9 Tennessee defeated Mississippi State 70-59. Number 4 Alabama with the win over Vanderbilt 78-66. And Belmont defeated Murray State in a big-time rivalry, 80-65. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Wednesday edition of Ramon, Kayla, and Will is powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. The Titans get their guy from Southern California to the AFC South. Welcome Ran Carthon, reportedly the new Tennessee Titans general manager. What you need to know and what we're hearing all morning long right here on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. With 11-year NFL veteran, Vol for life for Ramon Foster, with the journalist whose J is always capitalized, Kayla Anderson, and the best producer in the world, Jonathan Schaefer, making the show happen.
The best producer in the world!
If you want news to break, just wait for Jonathan Schaefer to be asleep or on the phone.
So ridiculous.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I've always got this stupid phone next to me. But like I'm away for it for 3 hours yesterday, in which I'd like to call that nirvana and zen, because that was a nice feeling. All of a sudden, I get off a phone call at one point yesterday. Hey, Titans have a new GM. I'm like, who's pranking me? Who's doing this to me? What'd I do to you? Ran Carthon, the new general manager of the Tennessee Titans.
They had narrowed it down to 3, and then an hour later.
I know.
That's why I
What
thought
the
it was a
heck
prank.
is that?
I did too. I had no idea, but the sources that actually dropped that news, I was just like, oh, okay. And now it's on every big network too. So somebody knows.
Yeah.
Somebody leaked it somewhere. By the way, North California.
Well, he came from the Rams,
He came
too.
from the Rams.
He came from the Rams, but
Yeah.
initially. Okay. All right.
know.
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
Just Cali. Either way. Either way.
I was going from the beginning of his career as director of player
Well,
personnel.
yeah.
It's
Well,
very different.
Yeah.
Northern and Southern.
It is. Oh, very
Don't get it
different.
twisted, folks.
It's very different.
Yeah, I got you.
It never rains in Southern California.
It does rain.
till now.
It's actually, well,
Yeah.
they need all the rain they can get. Let's
They
just say
do. I
that.
was just wondering, like, people were complaining about the rain. I'm like, y'all need this.
The fires they get in the summer in Northern and more so Northern California, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So rain, keep falling.
Keep falling.
41-year-old Ran Carthon tabbed as the Tennessee Titans general manager. ESPN's Diana Rossini, NFL.com's Ian Rappaport. Everyone in the league had this pretty much at the same time. Managing the pro scouting department, advanced scouting, helping the 49ers make acquisitions through trades, free agency, and the waiver wire. And the son of former Giants fullback Maurice Carthon. Love for scouting aside, you read about Carthon, and he spent most of his career on the pro scouting side of things. And this morning, we are wall-to-wall coverage on this, reacting to it, telling you what you need to know about a guy who watched film with Bill Polian as he played as an Indianapolis Colt, played in the SEC at the University of Florida, spent only 3 years as a player in the National Football League before immediately joining the Atlanta Falcons scouting department, moving to L.A. to work with the Rams from 2012 to 2016. And since then, he has been with the San Francisco 49ers in the pro scouting side of things as the director of player personnel these past couple of seasons. Just y'all's general reaction first to this news and the resume of a guy who, although young, has a lot of experience at a lot of different places with different general managers?
For me, it was just like Kayla's reaction. I was like, man, that was quick. We got the alert that it was the second round. It's like, okay, that was a round. I think I was listening to Blaine and Mickey in the car, and I was just like, okay, cool, second round, we're there now. And later in the evening, it's like they got their guys. Like, oh, well, that was quick, and that could be a really good sign. It's, look, we don't want to let this guy out of the city if he's here. We know what we want. The communication between him and Miss Amy Adams Strunk had to have been high. And also, if the rumors were correct, and as far as Vrabel's involvement in round 2, that means they must have clicked like ASAP. So I was just thinking, good. And then I'm outsourcing, trying to find out information. There hadn't been any one person I've spoken to about Ran Carthon that's had anything bad to say other than the Titans got a guy. Yeah. And I was like, wow. So that was my first initial, just response to it. Nobody said anything bad about him other than you have a dude that you're going to love, and he's going to hit the ground running, everything around it.
I was shocked with the timing also because they had narrowed it down, and that's what I immediately jumped to when Diana Rossini had that report, because that's where I first saw it, is from her on Twitter. And my first thought was, wow, they must have really wanted this guy and, wanted to just extend the deal because they were that impressed with him. And, you probably go out and you talk to a lot of his peers and people he's worked for, and it had to have been glowing reviews. Like you had said, Ramon, you've heard mostly positive things. I just like the fact, too, that he is a former player. He's a son of a coach who also played. He has all the relatability when it comes to the league. And we've seen how Mike Vrabel does things, and he puts himself in a different category, I think, a lot of times, and so does his players, because he has that experience. He is still younger. I think Ran is 41 years old, so fairly young, and has not been far removed from that world, and has been working at it in the offices, the front offices, for a while now. So I think it's a really great pick. We weren't even really talking about Ran Carthon, guys. I mean, he was in the mix, but we weren't saying a lot about him. The more and more I did my research after the hire, I'm like, this is really impressive.
You know why you didn't hear about him? Because nobody's trying to show their cards that was in the running for him. I think that was possibly a big part of it, too. Kayla's like, just keep this quiet. We got our guy already, and that's how the league goes. It's almost like draft season in a sense. We love this guy. We love him, love him, love him. Next thing you know, he takes a skid. Well, why? It's because we were really secretly in love with this dude over here, That's so... that could be a good thing as far as not hearing his name a whole lot out front. But if you talk to anybody around it, which I was real busy yesterday just trying to figure out, okay, who do I know? Who do I need to talk to? And I outsource front office guys, former players, people who are just around the sport in general. I had people reach out to me to just initiate a conversation. It was like, hey, the Titans got a guy. And I was just like, dang. It's one of those, like, you hear that much good stuff about a guy like that. It's like, he must really be the real deal, and this was the perfect opportunity for him.
615-737-1045 is our number this morning as you give your reaction and we give you the details on the newest Tennessee Titans general manager. David Beauclair made a point with us yesterday I thought was interesting when explaining why Ian Cunningham was one of his favorite candidates. And he said he has diverse experience at multiple different places. That's also the case with Ran Carthon, who began his career with the Atlanta Falcons as a pro scout, held the same position prior to his stint with the Niners from 2012 to 2016, and has been there since 2017. I like the fact that Carthon has been at a couple of different places and considers himself a Bill Polian disciple, a Les Snead disciple, and now a John Lynch disciple. I think having those diverse experiences, specifically with two general managers, guys, who are aggressive in the trade market and free agent market, I think gives us the first glimpse into what the new Titans offseason philosophy is going to be. And I expect him to hit the ground running sooner rather than later.
I know. And the other portion of this, too, is you coming from an organization that plays a style of ball. What have we been saying for the longest? Like, hey, Man, if they can do this run game thing that the Titans are known for historically, and also add in a little pizzazz, excitement. That's what we were looking for, right? When we're speaking about the offensive coordinator, that's another job that's got to be filled here too. But that was one portion of it. It's like you got to find some guys that can go do those types of things. And if you're drawing from that glass that the 49ers have, you got to be impressed with what they've done. And I know they had a spell of, bad years that they had to get to this point. But looking at the way the machine is operating now, that's truly what you want. We're watching a guy operate in that organization like Brock Purdy that's surrounded. And let's just be real about that. We had this conversation too. Well, what is it? Is it Purdy that they found a gem with, or is it the system? And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing when you speak of systems when you're having success. Only time it's a system is when it's time for a guy to get paid, or how good is a guy individually. But if you're looking at the system in which Shanahan runs and the players that they've surrounded him by, with free agents, with draft picks, with coaches also, that's contributing to Brock Purdy being able to, 6 games, 6 wins that he's had as of late? Like a playoff win for Mr. Irrelevant. No, what's the spoon? The
Teaspoon Boy.
Teaspoon Boy. From Teaspoon
right.
Boy, yeah,
Per Michael in London.
Per Michael in London for the Teaspoon Boy, man, and personnel, and that's what's been lacking here. If we can say one of the biggest things that's been John Robinson's knock, other than the 19 class, and it seems like this 2022 class seems to have been that good, is where are your guys at?
Is it unique for players like Trey Lance to tweet out the fingers, crossed emojis, good luck, and for George Kittle to say you're getting a good one? Because how closely do they even work with the upper management? So is that telling too that some of these guys are going out of their way to say these types of things about Ran?
Man, this says a lot about Ran Carthon for the players to vouch for a dude like that, because most times front office relationships with players don't really correlate that much, but it also speaks about their environment as a team too. And we'll get more into it. I know we're up against the break, but I have a lot of information about this guy. Guys that are hand in hand with him, have been in the same circles with him, players, former players, like front office and scouts that's worked for him. So this is a very good situation, it seems like, for the Titans.
615-737-1045, our number as we talk Titans with you all morning long. Mike Renner of Pro Football Focus will join us at 8:20 this morning. We'll get the first glimpse at what the draft strategy could be for Ran Carthon and the options at number 11 and in the second round for the Titans' new general manager. And Rhett Bryan joins us for his weekly visit on the show coming up in hour 4 at 9 a.m. His reaction and his biggest takeaways to the Titans reportedly finding their new general manager. But coming up next, what you need to know about Ran Carthon, the background of the man who will reportedly have the leadership of the turnaround of the Tennessee Titans, what Ramon Foster is hearing from his contacts at the NFL, and much, much more all morning long. Coming up next on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, 104.5 The Zone. Big morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. The Titans reportedly have their new general manager. ESPN's Diana Rossini, NFL.com's Ian Rappaport saying yesterday that Ran Carthon will be the guy for the Tennessee Titans. This coming after a report from NFL Network's Mike Garafolo yesterday that the Titans were set to bring back Vice President of Player Personnel Ran Carthon, Carthon, and Chicago Bears Assistant General Manager Ian Cunningham for second interviews. You had Albert Breer saying that Cunningham had gone through a second interview on Monday. And guys, we still have not had any report that Carthon ever went through a second interview
Right.
with the Titans organization. The only one we know went through a second conversation with the Titans, according to reports, was Cunningham. So I'm sure we'll get more details in the coming days. But clearly, as Mike Vrabel joined the process later on in this interview search, Carthon was the guy.
Yeah. Very interesting, man. Like I said, it went by quick, but when it's good, right? Will, why hesitate and wait even longer, especially when there's other business that has to be done? Like the Titans got to expedite everything in a smart way moving forward. How close are we to the Senior Bowl? Very.
First weekend in February.
First weekend.
That week is what it matters. So.
Yeah, the practices and everything. And on top of that, combine and understanding personnel, the hiring of an OC and an offensive line coach and a DB coach. So it's appropriate that you know what you're looking for when you get into this search and hiring of a new guy. Good optics on it. Everybody I've talked to, man, and we'll get into that right now, man. I immediately reached out to some people that I knew that were in the NFC West and was like, man, you played against him. What do you know about this guy? And the first thing that comes out in the text thread that I had, incredible human and hard worker, great with relationships, and incredible evaluator, which has been one of the biggest things that we've needed here in Tennessee for a while, right? It's like, okay, where's the talent? Not just the early round guys, which that's been a little bit of an issue, but the late round guys too. And if you look through San Francisco's just history as of late, since 17, since he's been involved, and I know, there's an aspect of some people are going to say, well, he didn't make the picks. Well, you got to kind of understand this too. There's usually 4 decisions that have to be made as far as picks goes. That go head coach, that go position coach, that goes front office, and that goes scouting. That's the way it goes. Head coach, position coach of the player that's being picked, scouting, and head coach. Like that's how it goes when you break down the who makes those decisions. So everybody plays a part in who's getting picked. But he also has a great presence to him and will bring great culture to the building. 49ers teams have a ton of grit and play a physical brand of football. Fantastic hire by the Titans. Ran is awesome. That was initially the first text back immediately about Ran. And this is from an opponent in the NFC divisions, NFC West. So that says a lot. And I dove in a little bit deeper. I was like, man, he knows how to find his guys and run the ship, right? I was like, I was like, Vrabel is a little bit of a hard, but when it comes down to how he operates, he was like, he's very entrenched and involved with the 49ers. I think that's the biggest thing of it all. It's not like he's just a front office guy. He's entrenched, which, again, to your point about Trey Lance and Kittle tweeting out and stuff like that, that says a lot about his personality. Great evaluator and, most importantly, understands people. Ran will be able to come in and hit the ground running. Very respected evaluator and exec.
Glowing reviews.
That's just from one of the folks I talked to yesterday. And that's a front office guy. That's a personnel guy for a NFC West team. So I think that was huge right there to get that type of stamp. How much better does it get than that one?
I love the evaluating that came up a couple times. Good evaluator.
Yeah.
I think that's something that in any type of review of a guy like that who's your new GM, that's the type of thing you want to hear. Mm-hmm. Because, again, you go back to some of these drafts and now how they've hurt the Titans in the long run. You just can't afford to do that.
No.
Moving forward. And are you going to hit every single time? No, but for the most part, you need to have good drafts.
Yeah, you
but
do.
More importantly, you need to be getting the first round pick moving forward right.
Yeah. And that was one of the conversations too. And I was just really at a point, I'm like, all right, I got him on the hook. Let me ask some more questions when it comes down to what type of job and does he know the expectations that he's kind of getting himself into. And I was like, man, they have a whole lot of work here to get this team at a high level competition. Exactly what I said. And I was like, mostly the OL. I was like, They got possibly 4 spots that needs to be filled. And he said to me, he was like, go watch that San Francisco tape. He was like, they built their team through the trenches and on O-line and D-line. He would get it done. And he continued on to say San Francisco's team are built around a run-first mentality. He was like, so maybe someone in that mode as far as the OC, because I asked him about it, in an OC mode. He was like, so as far as the OC, and then he continues and say, Nashville would love that guy. That's high praise.
It's good words from your contacts around the league. And David Lombardi of The Athletic, who covers the San Francisco 49ers, added this insight, said the lower rounds for San Francisco are the scouting department's rounds. That's where their operation shines, and Ran Carthon operated that part of the 49ers machine. The results indisputably suggest he did a great job. That includes Brock Purdy, by the way.
Yes, it does.
Mr. Teaspoon.
That is the way the San Francisco operation set up was Adam Peters, who was the San Francisco executive who declined the Titans interview request for the job, handled the draft.
Yep.
Ran Carthon handled free agency, waiver wire, and a lot of the trades and that side of things. That's just the breakdown of pro personnel versus your draft department and the other side of college scouting. The lower rounds, though, were the scouting department's rounds, according to David Lombardi, who's a journalist covering San Francisco. So clearly, I think Ran Carthon's experience comes from the pro scouting side of things and understanding free agency, where the 49ers have also excelled over the past couple of seasons. It's good to know he has the draft background as well, and we can see the positive fruits of his labor in San Francisco.
But also, Will, it's even further than that when you look at what they've been able to do, too, as far as that scouting department. Here's a guy, too, and this is the thing, too. It's not just Purdy that's the biggest hit. He's the most recent hit. But you also look at George Kittle, was a 4th and 5th round guy. All pro with them right now. They also have a few guys that sprinkled around the league, too, that's still starters, like the tackle DJ Jones is still a starter right now with the Broncos. Fred Warner, 3rd round pick.
Oh, wow, yeah.
All pro guy, too. I know it's not later round. That's an earlier round acquisition right there. Tavarius Moore still there playing big times for them. They also have 2 cornerbacks from which class? They have 2 cornerbacks that are actually playing big-time ball for the Jets, too. So it didn't work out there, and I saw a good bit of that was due to injury. Deebo Samuel was an earlier round guy, but also they just re-signed their punter, Mitch Wishnowsky, to a 3-year, $22 million deal. Later round guy who takes a punter in the draft. I think that speaks high of him. Dre Greenlaw. Also, another guy on this team who's a starter for him, late round draft pick also for the 49ers. And also this year, first time all pro, Talanoa Hafanga, their safety is a all pro guy as a former, if I'm not mistaken, 5th round or 6th round draft pick.
And he would have had the interactions with Jawan Jennings.
Yes, and also, Jawan Jennings.
He
is
helped.
also
He was a 7th
drafted.
rounder.
7th round. Their only blip, and I think that's probably what John Robinson needs a little bit of grace to, was that 2020 draft. But I say that in the sense that the D tackle that they took in the 1st round from South Carolina, Kinlaw has just been injured, but he was just reactivated on the 23rd of December this past year.
I think he has 2 career sacks in 3 seasons.
Where was
now.
he out of?
South Carolina.
That's right.
But
that
it's
was
been injuries that got him.
Don't draft guys from South Carolina. Injury pro, man.
That was the trade that San Francisco sent DeForest Buckner to Indianapolis, got back the 13th pick, then traded the 13th pick and got number 14 and a later round selection as well. And we're going to go through later in the show all of the trades the 49ers have made over the past 3 seasons. Christian McCaffrey is the headliner. San Francisco has been very aggressive in making trades since Ran Carthon got there.
Truth.
And that included trading away a star defensive lineman who you drafted in the 1st round, who is often compared to Jeffrey Simmons. If we just want to set that ablaze.
Whoa,
just
baby,
for a hot
Will. Starting to fire early.
737-1045. Talanoa Hufanga is one of the great success stories of them, though.
There's a video
Dude's
of
a
him
stud.
getting announced his All-Pro. Mind you, what round is Teller for? He's either 5th, 6th, or 7th. But you don't become All-Pro at those type of positions just out of nowhere.
That's insane.
That's one of those ones where the scouting department pop bottles behind. Like
Yes.
legitimately. Or finding, I'll be honest, I know the guy that scouted me at Tennessee, and for me to have gotten 11 years, and he pretty much said it. It's like, that extended a lot of my career. He's like, for me to go find you out of Tennessee, for you to play 11 years, he was like, you understand what that does for me in that front office now? I was like, really? You supposed to be telling me this right now? But that's the part of the scouting that makes teams build success. And you have his draft pick right now, Will?
I don't.
Okay, I have to find. I looked it up yesterday and totally didn't write it down.
But he wasn't a top
No.
3 round guy.
No, not at all.
He was the number 180 pick
180 pick. Yeah,
in the NFL draft, 2021. Yep.
180. That puts them in a really good spot that year.
615-737-1045, where John in the Borough leads us off this morning. Hey, John.
What's up, John?
Good morning, everybody. I promise not to talk soccer because apparently that is frowned upon in this establishment.
Oh,
Jack Bauer showed up fast there, didn't he?
In any event, honestly, so I was looking through a lot of Rand's history, and yeah, you guys brought up that he hasn't drafted the first few rounds for his career. But I was looking through some of the teams that he's been a part of, and the first round picks that he's been a part of that front office have been hits, which I realize they're supposed to be hits. But what have the Titans not done since John Robinson was GM? They've not hit on their first round picks. So I think that this is a changing of the guard, and I think that it's a good change. I like the idea of it. I like the hire. And honestly, I was kind of comparing it. I think this could be our Ozzie Newsome.
Yeah, appreciate the call, John. I think the only difference there is that Ozzie was so much a college scout and was on that side of things. But I think the point stands that you wanted someone younger, up and coming in this business, who fit Mike Vrabel's vibe and mentality, and you wanted a collaborator with the head coach.
that sounds like the perfect collaborator,
I don't
right?
think you could have found a better one.
Right.
And a guy who played running back in the National Football League from 2004 to 2006, a son of an NFL fullback who turned assistant coach. Ran Carthon went to Miami briefly to be a high school football coach and then left quickly and said, I don't have the patience to be a coach, and joined the Atlanta Falcons scouting department. I mean, this is a guy who would watch film at Florida when coaches realized that he wanted to be potentially a front office executive or a scout, and would watch film with Bill Polian while he played with the Indianapolis Colts from the perspective of a general manager. It speaks highly on Polian's influence on his career. He went through his entire playing career thinking and processing that this was going to be his next step and this be his ultimate goal. And he's said in interviews for years, this is the ultimate goal, to lead a franchise and to be a general manager.
Yeah. The other portion of this, too, of course, there was some people that tweeted at us about, his role as far as scouting and picking guys and stuff like that. I say this, other than the kid from South Carolina who's had a couple of injuries, and he's still young in his career, they've hit on the early round guys probably more often. Like I said, I reeled off some of the guys that they've gotten early on. Solomon Thomas, yes, he went free agent to the Jets. Reuben Foster got in some trouble. You can't help that one. Ahkello Witherspoon is the guy that ended up with the Steelers that played well. But you got McGlinchey, who's supposed to be, I think, a free agent this year. If I still have this up as far as active free agents coming into this year. But also, he's a starter for him. Fred Warner is a guy. Of course, Tavares Moore plays with him still. Bosa, Deebo Samuels, Jalen Hurd played himself out of the league a little bit. And, of course, like I said, Talanoa Hufanga is a guy that's an all-pro for them. So they're sprinkled all around us. So
That's right.
Yeah.
I actually had one of their guys that I trained with coming out of the combine who now works in the scouting department reach out to me just randomly. I showed you guys, right? And just sending his sentiments on what he thought about Ran Carthon. And he's like an awesome guy. Titans got a great one. And I was just like, okay, well, let me dive in a little bit more with this then. But then I asked the question, what's his involvement with scouting, with picking players and everything? He's like, he's the best former player. He gets it. Confident, which you need that around Vrabel, right? You need somebody that's going to be able to just stand toe-to-toe and make the right decisions. But he said confident, charismatic, humble, just a really good dude to be around. It's like, can't say enough good things about him. You're going to love him. Again, another unwarranted just stamp of approval for him. And I was just asked the questions like, did he scout college guys, NFL free agents? What was his role? I was like, because that's going to be a question that we have to have answered here. And it's his answer to me, his reply to me was, he's been primarily on the pro side in his career. He's like, but he's also helped oversee the college side the last couple of years with his role. That right there is the answer you're looking for.
If you are a guy and you're hearing these raving reviews, if you're that guy, I would see this guy as being someone who injects himself in every aspect of the game. So maybe he's not specifically got the college scouting attached to his name, but I cannot see a guy like this that seems to kind of know a little bit about everything and enjoys the game so much that he's not attentive in terms of what's going on when it comes to the college game and when it comes time to that time of the year.
Yes.
These guys aren't not paying attention.
Exactly. No, they see it.
It does. I understand the call. It's more of a pro scout mentality, but this guy loves football.
Yes, and by the way, McGlinchey is going to be a free agent this offseason too with the 49ers. Their right tackle.
Oh.
There you go. 615-737-1045, our number. We'll get to Michael in Clarksville coming up next and give you the details on the reward the 49ers get for Ran Carthon reportedly becoming the new general manager of the Tennessee Titans. The Rooney Rule and updates to that for minority GM candidates mean the 49ers get quite a king's ransom for Ran Carthon becoming the Titans general manager. That's next on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, 104.5 The Zone.
It's Ramon Foster for Window Nation, and if you did not know, it's home show season, and Window Nation is bringing the home show savings to you, where you get 0% interest financing for 60 months. That's 5 years, no interest, plus 2 free windows with every tool you buy. All of this without leaving the comfort of your home. Simply go to windownation.com/home show and try their free virtual visualizer. Just upload the picture of your home, yes, your home, and view hundreds of window options. Or you can call them if you like to talk on the phone a little bit at 866-90-NATION, or again online at windownation.com/home show. And this is why you need to choose Window Nation windows. One, you can upgrade the look and feel of your home. Plus, you can save up to 30% on your heating bills and increase the value of your home. And one reason to know if you need, or a few reasons to know why you need new windows, is if they are sticking, drafty, cracked, hard to open, or locking when you close them. Yes, you need new windows. You might as well go to windownation.com/home show to get you some new ones. Because the longer you have old, drafty windows, the more money you are wasting on your heating bills. Over time, Window Nation has saved their customers over $60 million on energy bills. Again, you pay no interest for 5 full years. Plus, buy 2 windows, get 2 windows free on any style from Window Nation. There's no limit to it. You can save thousands on your new windows and energy bills, all while upgrading the look and feel of your home. Again, go to windownation.com/home show, or you can call them at 866-90-NATION.
Wednesday edition of Ramon, Kayla, and Will is powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. Story of the morning, story of the offseason for the Titans is they have reportedly found their general manager and 41-year-old 49ers executive Ran Carthon. Ran Carthon, a friend of one of our friends of the show, George Foster, who tweets at Ramon yesterday, the former Georgia offensive lineman, saying, "Let me tell you about my boy as unbiasedly as I can. He's as solid as they come. He knows ball. He's as prepared as they come. He's been preparing for this moment for many years. He's the real deal. Just let him work." And then you go look at Ran Carthon's Twitter account. Take a quick stroll. Hasn't tweeted in over a year. And what do you know? But you click on his reaction to the Georgia-Florida game, Carthon, a former Florida Gator, and he has a picture of George Foster with a crying Michael Jordan face on it after Florida beat Georgia in 2020. I think he's going to fit right in.
I love it.
I can get into that, man. 100% I can get into that. I told you guys on a break, I get another text message from a very important front office friend of mine that I know, not linked to the Steelers either, just so you know. But it says this, man. He was like, dude, I owe you more information on him just because. He was like, he knows him very well. He was like, this dude loves ball. He knows ball. The job is about leadership, knowing and picking people and being a collaborator. He checks off all the boxes and he's coming to win, period. And I'm thinking to myself, like, these aren't positions that just are handed out to folks when you're in this game. And the fact that he went from, lower scout as far as just college, getting in with the Falcons and working his way all the way up. You got somebody that knows every aspect of whether it's team building, coaches building, understanding. If I'm not mistaken, he was there with Petrino in Atlanta for a second. And that little blip that he had there with them says a whole lot about you've seen some of the worst of the worst. And then you see yourself go to St. Louis and that transition from St. Louis to the West Coast and then go up to the 49ers. He's 41, 41, but this guy's experienced a whole lot of stuff as far as that,
That's it. When you tell me the stops that he's made all across the country, because I think he was born in Arkansas, went to Florida, but he's been all over.
Yeah.
In that short amount of time, any person who has just real life experience like that, to me, like, your mind is more broad. But on top of it, being the football guy he is, being in all of those spots and learning from all those different types of people that he was under, and whether it worked or not, you were able to see that. Did that work? Oh, hell no. Did this work? Oh, yeah. Life experience mixed with football, winning.
He got there the year after Petrino.
He got that a year after Petrino.
He began in Atlanta in 2008. Petrino's one season was 2007.
Was that it?
Yeah. When he left the note on the locker room.
Literally a blip.
So he literally left a note in the locker room when he left.
But think about where they had to build that back up.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, that wasn't a great spot.
It wasn't a great spot.
615-737-1045, our number. Michael in Clarksville up next with us this morning. Hey, Michael.
RK Dub, what's good, baby?
What's going
up?
on?
Oh, man, it's a lovely morning. It's a chilly morning. It was a great day to be a Titan fan. I guess everybody got something to cheer for again.
Yes, sir.
It's, man, Babel said it. He said, I want a faster team, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much we're slow, sluggish. We hit hard, but if somebody break on a run, we can't chase them down, and we got to depend on Byard to get them. So it's just one of those things now, man. We're coming into the 21st century, right? You love DH and everything. I'm pretty sure they're going to have a talk with him. You might not be the focal point, but you're still going to be a focal point, right? So it's like just coming in, changing the attitude, because the reality of it, guys, we're maybe a draft or two away to being back to where we were. But again, what John Robinson's here 4 years, 5 years, that's 4 to 5 years of missing in the first round. So you got to think, Derrick Henry, second round, right? A.J. Brown was a second round guy. I think Lewan was a first rounder. So out of all those drafts.
That was before John, though, right?
Yeah, that was before him. So what, Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, but then you trade away A.J. Brown. I mean, we all know how that went. So now it's just about coming into the 21st century. Like, I'm excited about this guy. I know it's going to take us maybe a year or so to get right, but the fact that, you know, the Titans are showing, like, hey, we coming, like Deion Sanders said. We coming. Jacksonville, they're one of the fastest teams right now, and it showed. But they haven't missed on picks. You have the Texans, I think, who have, 8 or 9 picks this year. So it's like, draft capital-wise, I love Big Jeff, but Big Jeff is worth maybe, 2 years of first-round picks? You know, Derrick Henry is another guy you got to think about trading. 2 years of first-round picks. So it's like, if I'm you guys and you guys are in that GM seat and you have an opportunity, what is the draft capital on Jeffrey Simmons and Derrick Henry as of right now? And would you make that call for the future?
Appreciate the call, Michael. The most you're going to get for Jeff, I think, is 1 first. For Derrick Henry, what, a third-round pick? Probably.
I hate to even speculate on Derrick because it could be as high as a third. It could be a fifth or sixth.
But you got to look at
he's an older running
the
back.
age.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 30 next year.
And again, you've got a new guy coming in going, okay, how are we approaching this?
Yeah.
I've got Derek for another year.
Yep.
I want
Yes.
Jeff to be here because he's going to be very good for a long time.
Yes.
So now we've got a GM in place. Which philosophy are we choosing in terms of rebuilding / retooling this roster for the next couple of years?
In hour 2, we're going to go through the trades that the 49ers have made under Ran Carthon and under his leadership as the director of pro personnel. And you're going to see that there have been aggressive moves like a second, third, fourth, and a future fifth for Christian McCaffrey. And then there have been some more innovative selling moves, like trading DeForest Buckner for the number 13 overall pick in 2020 for the Indianapolis Colts. Coming up next, though, it's hour number 2 as we continue to give you details on Ran Carthon, the new reported general manager of the Tennessee Titans, who had 3 general manager interviews last year as well. The guy that has gone around the block interviewing for front office gigs now gets the big one here in Nashville. We'll tell you where else Ran Carthon has spent time talking with teams to be their general managers a season ago. Coming up next as hour 2 begins under Ramon, Kayla, and Will, 104.5 The Zone.
From the Superbook.com sports desk, I'm Jonathan Schaefer. Good morning. According to multiple reports, the Tennessee Titans are set to make 49ers executive Ran Carthon their next general manager. He brings 15 years of front office experience to the Titans. He spent the past 2 seasons as director of player personnel after serving 5 seasons as the director of pro personnel with the 49ers. Carthon also previously worked with the Rams and Falcons. He was an undrafted rookie with the Indianapolis Colts in 2004. That's how he broke into the league. Played for them through the 2006 season. To the hardwood from yesterday, number 9 Tennessee defeated Mississippi State last night, 70-59. Zakai Ziegler had a game-high 24 points along with 6 rebounds and 3 steals. Number 4 Alabama beat Vanderbilt 78-66. The Doors were without Liam Robbins, who sprained his ankle in practice and is expected to be out 4 to 6 weeks. Belmont won over Murray State 80-65. To the ice, Nashville defeated Columbus 2-1. The Preds have won 2 in a row. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
And the show goes on into hour number 2 today on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. Good morning, Nashville. You've got a general manager, 41-year-old Ran Carthon, coming from the San Francisco 49ers, reportedly the new man here in Music City. Alongside 11-year NFL veteran, Vaughn for Life, Ramon Foster, the journalist whose J is always capitalized. Don't you dare put a dot over it. That's
Hell
Kayla
no.
Anderson. And the best producer in the world, Jonathan Schaefer, making the show happen for us.
The best producer in the world.
Of the world. I'm Will Bowling. The phone number is 615-737-1045. The son of a former Giants fullback, a Florida Gator. I know Vols fans, it's okay. We're going to be all right. And a veteran on the pro scouting departments of the Falcons, the Rams, and the 49ers. Ran Carthon, reportedly the guy here in Nashville.
Yeah, big time get, man. Of course, raving reviews from almost everybody I've talked to about Ran Carthon, man. And it says a lot, too. We get the first breaking news that, hey, first round of GM interviews are done. And then later in the evening, what was it, about 4 o'clock? Maybe a little bit later, 5?
Around there, it was like 4 o'clock, I think.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
That the Diana Rossini and I think she was with Darlington, they both dropped the news that he was going to end up being the Titans GM. That's fast, Kayla, Will.
It is. And here's my question. I don't see that there is any way that Mike Vrabel wasn't somehow involved with getting to speak with him if they intended to have Mike Vrabel say, because it never reached the second round. So I feel like there's some way that those two were able to, quote unquote, collaborate together before this decision was made.
The Cabo? Was the Cabo? That's basically what happened to Cabo with Stafford is what happened? Yeah. But big time news seems to be a big get for the Titans too. And I've been a fan of too. Like, why we continue to recirculate the same coaches and names, and how many times we got to go through this guy.
Let's go new.
Yeah, let's go new, and that's what the Titans have done right now, man. I'm very happy for this organization. From all the sources that I've talked to surrounding Ran Carthon for this job, I don't think you could have gotten a better guy so far from what I know.
Well, Ran Carthon is not new to being a candidate for general manager positions. None of the executives the Titans were considering had GM experience, which surprised me a little bit, but I think is clear to the vision that Amy Adams-Strunk had here. I think this was a legit search. I think Amy wanted to cast a wide net, which she did, interviewing 7 different candidates, including the 2 in-house and Monty Ossenfort, who's now the general manager of the Arizona Cardinals. There are a lot of searches, guys, that just feel like you're going through the motions to give the appearance of a search when in reality you had your guy from the beginning. I don't think that was the case with this search at all. Carthon earned his first general manager interviews last year, was up for the Steelers job.
Yep.
Interviewed with Pittsburgh. Interviewed for the New York Giants. He's the son of former Giants fullback Maurice Carthon, who went on to be an assistant coach of the National Football League. And he also interviewed with the Bears, who ended up hiring Chiefs executive Ryan Poles last offseason. So certainly I think you have the experience of he's been through the process of interviewing. Mm-hmm. And anytime you go through an entire season after just picturing yourself in a GM role this time last year, Ran Carthon, I would imagine, went through this entire season thinking about those interviews and thinking of ways he would do things the same or differently.
Yeah.
Has had time to sit on that for a year and now gets his opportunity here in Nashville.
And what's unique about it, too, Will, in this type of situation where guys go through this, and y'all know how it goes. Y'all have interviewed people or been in those positions before where you've been interviewed, too. Sometimes a team will absolutely love you. They will, and that's why I think he gets a second shake at these opportunities this year and get this job now. But some teams are probably just like, not right now. I want to be able to say, yeah, you're our guy. And I think that's probably a little bit of what he saw last year, Will. It's just, it's okay to say not right now. And to me, I think if we're judging off what the Titans need and the expectation of this fan base and Miss Amy and Coach Vrabel being able to work with a guy that seems to be similar to him, they got the guy that was necessary for this job.
I think one of my biggest pet peeves just in life in general, whether it be a football job or just a job in terms of broadcasting or just the job you're in, is saying that you're actually casting out and interviewing all these different people when you know all along who your hire is going to be. Nothing irks me more than that. Mm-hmm. And so for Miss Amy Adams Strunk to go out and actually, I thought, had a great pool of candidates and was able to keep a couple in-house people, which rightfully so. Yeah. They've earned the right to be a candidate. They know the organization, but she had a whole list.
Yeah.
And to go outside the organization, not always easy, not always comfortable. I think you give a lot of credit to Amy Adams Strunk as well with making this hire and doing it the right way.
Yeah. And one of my first vouchers I got for the people that missed it earlier, I reached out to somebody that's in that division and just to get a, what's the tenor on this guy? Where is he at? And the first thing he said, he mentioned the person, then he also mentioned the job. I think when you have people that can vouch for you with those two things, that's incredible to me. And they said this incredible human being and hard worker. That's what this organization is. We know that, right? Hard workers, great with relationships, and incredible evaluator. That's more necessary than anything with this team moving forward, and has a great presence to him, will bring a great culture to that building. 49er teams have a ton of grit and play a physical brand of football. Fantastic hire by the Titans. Ran is awesome. You get personal and you get professional and somebody that just wanted to say something.
Also.
Culture, yes, 100%.
Good culture.
Well, the 49ers will receive compensatory third-round selections in the next 2 drafts as a part of Rooney Rule incentives for teams to develop minority head coach and general manager candidates. So a big reward for San Francisco and Ran Carthon joining the Tennessee Titans, and the ability now for him to come to Tennessee, have the same impact with the Titans as he did in California with a number of teams, with the LA Rams and with San Francisco. We go back to the phones where Goody Mike is in Cleveland, checking in with us this morning. Hello, Michael.
What's up, Mike?
What up, partners? What up, though? Hey, so this cat, he a brother? He black?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, okay. Look at Miss Amy. That's what's up, Miss Amy. That's why I love her. That's what I'm talking about. So yeah, just don't do that there. But hey, man, I'm happy. I'm happy for the brother. I'm happy that we got a GM. But look, man, I was watching Major League last night, and I'm like, cousin Eddie. When Major League, I'm scoring, y'all. I want to be happy, positive, but I'm scoring. Ramon, you my dog. I trust you, but I don't care about what your people saying, okay? I don't, man. You still got to prove this, man. For real, bro. Like, that's good. We heard a lot of the same stuff about J-Rob. Great evaluator. Oh, he studied under Bill Belichick. Oh, he was doing this during draft. Oh, he's a great he did a lot of film sessions. That's all you did at the page. We heard all of this stuff before, man. I'm not about to crown homeboy. I'm not about to give out, all that extra, man. Prove it to me, man. The first thing he can do is get us find us a franchise quarterback, man. Find us that hidden gem that can go out and lead this squad that we ain't had for, a while now, man. We can keep on overhyping these cats all we want to, but, until they actually show up, I'm sitting on the sidelines with my arms folded, waiting for one and done back at pick 11 to 15, 16. So, congrats to you, Ran. But, as a long-time Titans fan, you still got to prove it to me, partner, before I hand you a beer. So, that's where I'm at.
Mike, is this self-inflicted?
Is it self-inflicted?
Yeah, because somebody in the chat just said, I remember not too long ago when Mike was saying, in J-Rob we trust.
I bet you that same person. I bet you that same person was saying the same thing too. Who was it? Who said it?
You gotta go to the chat to see. You gotta go to the chat.
I was trying to stay away from
the
chat. I'm about to go.
You better get busy in that chat.
Okay, dude. All right. Don't run. I'm coming.
Don't worry about it, sweetheart. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
There's Mike in Cleveland. 615-737-1045, our number. 1045 The Zone TV is where you can watch the show on YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter, and Twitch. And jump in the chat room that is always controlled anarchy in a good way.
It is.
He needs a shot of love this morning. Can we get him a shot of love, Goody Mike?
You know what, y'all? We'll get to it. I said we'll get to it. I'm going to come back with that.
Coming up next, the trades in the last 3 seasons that Ran Carthon and the San Francisco 49ers have made, and how that could speak to roster-building strategies with him here in Tennessee. We break down more on the Titans' new general manager coming up next on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, 1045 The Zone. Hey, it's Will Bowling telling you again about my friends at Lee Company. Are your appliances needing repairs? Well, Lee Company can help with that. From popular brands to elite labels, Lee Company offers expert home appliance troubleshooting, warranty work, and repair services. And you can depend on Lee Company for on-time arrivals and on-the-spot repair quotes from highly trained, certified, friendly technicians. They can help with all your major appliances, including the refrigerator, microwave, dishwasher, freezer, ice maker, washing machine, your dryer, whatever it is. Lee Company is all that you need. And it's been all we've needed here in Middle Tennessee for nearly 80 years. They're open 24/7 with over 1,600 employees ready to help you 24/7. Give them a call at 615-567-1000 or go to leecompany.com to book an appliance service call today. That's 615-567-1000. Lee Company, all you need. Wednesday edition of Ramon, Kayla, and Will is powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, and Will Bowling here with you on the phone lines at 615-737-1045, discussing the new general manager, reportedly, of your Tennessee Titans, Ran Carthon, joining the mix yesterday. So the trades the 49ers have made since Ran Carthon has been there in 2017, there are many of them. And really, we could spend an hour going all the way back to 2017 with all of the trades that he has been a part of. But essentially, what you need to start with is in 2017, that's when Jimmy Garoppolo became a 49er.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning of many trades with Carthon in the pro scouting department in San Francisco. So let's start in 2020.
Yeah.
Traded a 2022 sixth-round pick for defensive end Jordan Willis. 7.5 sacks in the past 3 seasons, 2 forced fumbles, 28 games played. Traded Matt Breida to Miami for a 2020 fifth-round pick.
Wow.
And then he traded a 2021 third and a 2020 fifth for left tackle Trent Williams.
Hold up. He got Trent for that?
Yep. From Washington.
Well, that's because Trent told Washington he wasn't going to play another down.
But they also
Washington,
dogged him.
yeah, and Washington lost leverage.
Yeah.
They got the best left tackle in the NFL for that in 2020. 2021, they weren't quite as active. They traded a 6th-round pick to Houston for defensive end Charles Omenihu, who had 4.5 sacks in 17 games this season. They traded linebacker Jonas Griffith for a 2023 7th-round pick and a 2022 6th. And then there was the big one.
Mm-hmm.
Christian McCaffrey becomes a San Francisco 49er. 3rd-round picks a 2nd-round pick, a 3rd-round pick, and a 4th-round pick in this year's 2023 draft, and a 5th-round pick in 2024. That then caused San Francisco to trade Jeff Wilson to Miami for a 5th in 2023 as well.
You got pieces, man. Really good pieces on those returns, too. Trent, to me, definitely, with Bakhtiari being in and out, Trent's still the number 1 left tackle in the league to me. And I think he's been that way. When he's healthy, between him and Bakhtiari, there's no 1 and 2. You got 1 and 1. Mm-hmm. This is the way you kind of got to view those guys, and that's a big pickup for them. It has honestly been a big just improvement for what their offensive line has been and what it's going to be. Like I said, McGlinchey's coming out this year as a free agent too, so it'll be interesting to see what they do with him in free agency. But you also get an opportunity that maybe you can get a right tackle and move NPF over to left. So you don't have to pay for it because that's a heavy check for any offensive lineman these days.
Well, and the biggest one came this year with Christian McCaffrey, no doubt, because I think we were even saying with just the lack of him being able to stay healthy in Carolina was kind of a question mark.
It was.
But they were willing to take a risk and clearly gave up a good amount of picks to bring him over there, but knew that he was going to be the right piece to add to that offense to be able to get even more creative and to know and realize you don't have really your starting quarterback at any point well, you did at some point of the season. That quickly was done when Trey Lance got hurt.
Yeah.
But they knew that would be the piece they needed, and now look at where the Niners are on the road to the Super Bowl possibly.
Yeah, and not just that. You got to look at also those guys that I went through their free agency list. Jimmy Ward's a starter for him right now, too, will be a free agent this year. I mentioned McGlinchey. Emmanuel Mosley, Vol, will also be a free agent. I think is it injury reason he's out right now, too? Yes,
got injured early in the season.
I brought up Tavares Moore also, man. They have a few guys that you say to yourself, it'll be interesting to see where this Titans decide to go dabble this offseason, if that's the approach. And I wanted to get to this too at the end of that segment. I told you I'd bring it back up. The good and the bad. Right now we're telling you about the hire to inform you what others around this industry is saying as far as the NFL goes. I get that. I understand that anybody that takes a job in the NFL, heck, even with my former coach, Coach Munch, when he took on the job of us, it was still side eyes like, okay, you were a head coach, but can you come in here and do this with us? it's a show and prove type of league. We know that. But to knock a guy by saying, hey, he has some good attributes and this guy has signed off on him, this guy has said this about him, you look at his track record. Yes, the job still has to be done. The environment is different than what it is in San Francisco. This, Kayla, is all a part of it. And some new guy got hired at the news station with y'all, Kayla, when you was working there on TV. What was the conversation? You still got to prove it. Right?
Absolutely. And a lot of the times you did not have people coming to you saying, oh, this person is this, this, and this.
Yeah.
You'd have to go and do all the research. And from what you had said yesterday is, yeah, you reached out to some guys, but you had guys reaching out to you, putting out the effort to say, this is what we think about Ran Carthon. And also, I mentioned it earlier in the show, you've got 49er players, current Niner players, George Kittle to name one of those guys that's very respected in the league, that went out of his way to say, great dude. And you know the relationships, like you mentioned, with the front office and players aren't always that close.
Exactly. And that's the thing, too, is most times front office and players separate themselves. There are some organizations, don't talk to them because that means you have an attachment to them. But if I believe I've been in an environment in Pittsburgh to where we saw the scouts come down. They came in. They knew our names. We had conversations with them. Heck, it even got to the point where I was talking to them about college players. Hey, what do you think about this guy at Ohio State? Because that's the relationship. When you have that type of environment, which I was told by one of the guys that vouched for Ran Carthon, look, he's going to be able to set a precedent in that building that this is how we operate, and everybody knows that. You're dealing with a guy that has confidence, somebody that's not looking over their shoulder, which can get you in this industry. If you're constantly looking over your shoulder, expecting somebody to take your job, or you're wondering if you're going to lose your job, then that's when you make bad decisions. And that's one thing that we've seen people say. I've had one of their scouts that currently work for them say, the Titans have a guy. This is somebody that worked directly with him. So that ought to tell you how his work relationship is, when a lot of the time in this industry of the NFL, it's a grind. It is a grind. Hey, what have you done? What's your assignment? Have you done this? And for one of his guys to be under him who's still employed with them to say, no, he's the one you want. What more do you want as far as, yes, this is the positivity of the new hire, but who is the guy that you were looking for if you're saying, yeah, he's still got to prove it?
What negatives have we've been told? That's the thing. We haven't been having people reach out saying, yeah, well, you can't work with him because he's this type of guy, or this hasn't been good. We don't have that to go off of yet. So this is the positivity, and that should be a good thing for Titans fans.
And those work relationships matter in this business. That also says you have a level of communicating or staying attached to guys and what they're looking for. One thing I've seen in youth sports these days, at college level, high school, and even younger kids, being able to communicate with them and understand who they actually are, aside from social media, aside from the 7-on-7 camps, aside from the, hey, let me post this on social media. You got to figure out what's a player that you're looking for. And it seems to me that he's super in tune to what they looked for as a 49ers team. He was at least a part of it. So now that him and Coach Vrabel have that understanding with Miss Amy of to what we're looking for, where do we need to go, and this is the type of player we want. I brought this up earlier this year or last year sometime. What's a Tennessee Titans type? You know? I think we all in this room and all these listeners can probably look at the 49ers team and the Rams, which he was at, and say, yeah, they got a type.
Yep.
Do you like that type? Do you want a guy that understands how to go look for those types too? And yes, the OC matters. The coaching on the field matters. But one thing that knocked J-Rob was what? What is his draft type? You go from getting a guy like Jeff to go getting a guy in Dylan Radins, or you go get another injured guy like Caleb Farley. Like, that's neglect in a sense. So what was those types out of all of those dudes? You can't really tell, can you?
That's a good point. There's no consistent anything to that.
Well,
the injuries.
There has been consistency over the entire time of the Titans organization, going all the way back to the original pick in Javon Curse.
Yes.
That was the Titans type.
Correct.
Yeah. Javon Curse was the type, and what did Mike Keith say when we asked him about Nicholas Petit-Frere and Roger McCreary going into the season? He said they sound like Titans.
Boom.
Traylon Burks sounds like a Titan.
Yeah.
And I think right now, It's a player that fits the mentality and the DNA of Mike Vrabel. Here's the question I have for y'all, and it's similar to the one I asked you yesterday. And I think I actually may know the answer to this one more closely than I did the one yesterday of what type of offense do the Titans want to become. Is it just because of Derrick Henry being there or because of what Mike Vrabel wants to do? Did Amy Adams Strunk hire Ran Carthon because he fits what a Titans type is, or did she hire Ran Carthon to change the identity of the franchise moving forward? Because I look at this guy's experiences in LA and in San Francisco, I think this is a move to diversify and to take the next step as a franchise and change what it means to be a Tennessee Titan.
I think the culture aspect remains the same because that's a damn good culture in that locker room. I'm going to say that firsthand. Almost every player I've ever worked with over the last 6 seasons has been incredible to work with, has answered the questions for the most part, has in the losing 7-game skid, not pointed fingers. I think the culture remains strong, and I think that everything we've heard from Ran fits that culture. But the actual personnel and the way that this team is put together, I think that changes a little.
Mm-hmm. You can have it. It's just like having kids raised in the same house, right? Like all of us would have the same bones about us, right? But then there's certain kids that your brothers and sisters with, they got a little bit more drive. Mm-hmm. You got to get them going a little bit more. I think what you're looking for is consistency when you have an opportunity to get guys in this draft. That's what it is in drafting personnel. You say, well, this is our template, and this is how we're picking from. Do you have drive? Do you have an attitude? Do you have all those things? So, yeah, I'm with Kayla on that. I think the culture's good. I think the product in which you take that culture inside the locker room, inside that meeting room to the field has to be changed. We had Vrabel, y'all, in an exit meeting, and he don't talk anymore to the owners meeting. Say, what about 2 guys that have been starters on this team? That right there is telling about
the injury issue.
The injury issue. But not just the injury issue, though. He put it out in front of us, and I'm sure, as Mike Keefe said, he probably had those conversations with them privately before he said it publicly.
He does not talk about players unless he's told the players that to their face.
But imagine saying, man, what are we going to complain about a blister? We're going to get callous.
Yeah. Yep.
That's telling right there.
I just think the culture still has to change, though, when you lose 7 games in a row to end a season.
Oh, yeah.
But what's your definition of culture? Because they could have that locker room could have been pointing all sorts of fingers. I mean, I'm in that locker room. That locker room's not to the point where everyone's like not able to just get themselves back. I know they're not winning. I know that. But what do you mean, like culture? Like what
I got a cool story after you give your answer on that one.
What did you expect this team after losing 7 for these individual players? How do you expect them to react? I guess that's what I'm asking.
I just don't take away that many positives from a team that lost 7 in a row in any department.
Mm-hmm.
On the field or off the field. I think everything has to improve when you lose that many games in a row in this league.
But the guys that they're bringing in,
right,
like in terms of how they fit the team mentality, there could be a lot of strays that a lot of teams have that are always getting into trouble, that are always causing something about them specifically being an individual. I don't see that ever with this team. That's the culture I was talking about.
I prefer to speak personally. I'm not speaking for y'all in as tangible of results as we possibly can, because it's hard to put a value on culture and it's hard to quantify what that culture did or didn't do for this team. All I'm saying is it wasn't enough of a winning culture to win a game out of 7 in a row.
Let me.
I mean,
my combine meeting with the Steelers went like this, y'all. Young, didn't know I was going there. Heck, I went undrafted. Everybody knows that, right? I know what you're saying, Will, is this. When I went into that meeting, they set me down. They asked me some hard questions like, man, your senior year, you guys, you're 5 and 6. What happened? I was like, man, I was leading as much as I could. We had guys that were leaders on that team, and we just didn't have enough getting it done. It's like there was fight. There's a bunch of good guys on that team. My conversation was very similar to I'm selling what we actually did good. And then the GM at the time and Coach Tomlin pretty much at the same time said, well, y'all still got Coach Former fired. So what does that say? Who was the leaders on that team? And I sat back for a second. This was one of the hardest conversations. It's probably why the firing Coach Former really just was like, dang, that really was on my watch. And you know what? I had to really put that into perspective. And I told them in that meeting as it was almost the end of it. This is a combine meeting in Indianapolis. And I told them, when you speak about culture, how do you lose 7? We went 5-6 my senior year. And I said to them, I was like, Coach, you're right. I was like, but it was more of them than it was of us. And I think that's what you're saying. Well, like, where does the culture, where do you get out those bad seeds? And I'm not calling those guys bad seeds when you have Vrabel calling out folks, but to Will's point about losing 7, like a team is devised of, in college, 90+, in the NFL, 53 plus 7 at the time. And you got to kind of say to yourself, sometimes in a battle, there's more weaker guys than it is actually guys actually fighting.
Yeah, because you're using fifth stringers.
Yeah,
I mean, there was no bodies left on this team.
And then you're boxed in with them. You face that same responsibility in those losses.
Right. No, I know. The winning culture is, I think, I get the winning culture part, but you have to admit that for what they had this year, they were bringing in guys that fit the team mold and that fit that culture in the locker room. Whether they were good enough to get it done talent-wise, that's different.
Yeah. And
that's
different.
The point.
And I think it's fair, Will, for you to say that. Like, yeah.
If the culture was good enough, I don't think you would have had as many soft tissue injuries as you did.
But what's that have to
and you wouldn't have Mike Vrabel making the comments about 9 to 4:30 players late in the season.
So that's other like personnel.
Mike Vrabel said it himself when he made the comment about we've got too many 9 to 4:30 players who are in the building.
Those are individuals that need to be evaluated.
I understand that. That contributes to the culture in that locker room.
But then also, okay, so what was that? Who was that going towards? Was that going
David
towards
Long
J. Rob
Jr.?
or the actual?
Oh, you're talking about the players.
Yeah, Will's talking about the players. Like,
no, I know. I was talking about those 2 players that were called out. Christian Fulton, David Long Jr.
But Will also said you had too many 9 to 4 guys.
But those are Mike Vrabel's words.
So who brought those guys in?
We have no idea. That's the point. That's why I have trouble having the culture conversation, because there's so many variables we don't know about what is or isn't happening when reporters aren't there, when it's totally closed doors, and who brought those guys. I mean, it's just
that's person to person, almost in a sense.
We'll continue the conversation coming up next. We'll take more of your phone calls at 615-737-1045 on a busy morning where the Titans have their general manager. We talk more about it next on 1045 The Zone.
It's Ramon Foster from myphdweightloss.com, and I got a problem with him though, y'all. Right now, I legitimately had to go down another slot in my belt. You hear me? Like, I had to pull it a little bit tighter this week. That's a problem for me, man, because that means I probably got to buy new clothes or either got to take it to somebody to alterate them. I got to do something, man, but I'm telling you, this is a plan that has worked for me. And if you yourself want to make a change in your life as far as your weight gains or losses, listen to me. Go to myphdweightloss.com. I'm one of their biggest advocates when it comes down to a plan actually working. I'll be real with y'all. I personally didn't have a plan as far as working out. It was just hit the gym, hit the elliptical, let's run, let's go lift, and I'll still eat. Well, guess what? The majority of your weight loss come from what you ingest. And I'm here to tell you that My PhD Weight Loss is a team that's going to just cultivate a plan specifically for you, and it actually works. Myself, Buck Rising is also, and if you've seen us in last year sometime to now, you'd say, yeah, that works. So get like us and go to myphdweightloss.com and see if there's a plan that works for you. And you know what? You don't even have to see. I know it works. Go to myphdweightloss.com and be sure you tell them that Ramon sent you.
Wednesday edition of Ramon, Kayla, and Will is powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors on 104.5 The Zone. With Ramon Foster and Kayla Anderson, I am Will Bowling, detailing the man who reportedly will be the new general manager of the Tennessee Titans, Ran Carthon. We'll talk with PFF's Mike Renner coming up in hour number 3. Take a look at the maybe initial draft board for Carthon and how that could change over the coming weeks. Get his thoughts on Hendon Hooker as well, and a couple of the Tennessee Volunteers up near the top couple of rounds of the NFL draft. 615-737-1045 is the number this morning if you want to jump in. We read the report earlier this morning from David Lombardi of The Athletic that in San Francisco, the lower rounds were the scouting department's rounds. He said that's where their operation shines, and Ran Carthon operated that part of the 49ers machine. The results indisputably suggest that he did a great job. The question I'll ask you guys, Ran Carthon was mainly a pro scout. In fact, he was always a pro scout, director of pro personnel in his time with the LA Rams and the San Francisco 49ers. Is it a concern at all to you guys that he hasn't had more experience in the early rounds? Because Adam Peters was more the draft expert within the San Francisco organization. Ran Carthon does not have general manager experience, so he's not been the guy making that call in war rooms before. Is that a little bit of a concern that Carthon doesn't have more of an NFL and college scouting draft background?
I don't think that's a big issue when it comes down to it to me. Like I said, I asked that question to a guy that's currently employed by him, and his answer was this, verbatim. He's been primarily on the pro side in his career, but has also helped oversee the college side the last couple of years with his role with the Niners. And this is the thing, too, about the scouting department. They all have their hands in the mix when it comes down to doing business. Is it something he probably has to refresh himself on, the details of what the breakdown is? Being a GM now, you have your hands in every bit of that scouting department, people management, and everything else, too. My old GM, Kevin Colbert, those were the conversations we have. Like, Kev was overseeing the entire department, but I can specifically ask him about a guard at friggin', Tulane or something, and he have understanding of what that guy was, and that's just how it really breaks down. So I'm not overly concerned because it's his job to put his guys in the scouting department into what their template is. I expect this, though, there to be a baseline of what our criteria is. Follow this. Break this down. Who are we looking for? Those are the things I think now that Ran has to be overseeing.
Look, it's not like he's not involved at all in terms of just knowing what's going on, right? Throughout these years when it comes to, and especially most recently with the Niners, with what they were doing. I mean, he knows what's going on. He's around the building. Yeah. He's inserting himself in everything. This is a guy who Ian Rappaport just put out this tweet. When he was a child, Ran Carthon used to buy draft magazines, do his own mock drafts. I mean, this is a guy who has loved football since a very, very young age, and almost seems like this is the path he wanted to go on. And so I think that he's paying attention to all parts of the game.
Yeah.
I think he'll definitely have to get way more familiar now that he is the general manager. I mean, this is going to be a big part of his job, but he has the natural ability to evaluate.
Yeah. And it's show and prove. Kayla, we have that. We had one of our callers call in and say, I'm a little bit torn because, they said the same thing about John Robinson. Let's be real. Anybody that got hired, this was going to be this, wasn't it? That's just where we are. Every person has to show and prove when in this business. That's what the NFL is. The other words for the NFL is not for long if you don't do your job right. So, he's up against the gun when it comes down to doing this job. But the other question is, if they made a decision this quick as far as knowing who their guy was, to your point, Kayla, maybe they were in Cabo. Maybe they were in Cabo a little bit.
I hope so.
But who else are you going to get that you didn't have these same questions for?
Yeah, no, it's fair. And I just asked the question just to get y'all's opinion on, we're talking about all the positive reviews that we've heard. And you're not going to hear.
Yeah.
When you ask people.
I think it's fair, Will.
When you ask people their opinions who have worked with him, they're not going to say, he's not a great guy.
Yeah.
Like, we have to look at the guy has not been a GM for a reason before. So you have to understand this is the experience he has. This is where he needs to take the next step. Because anybody who's available is going to have to take that next step. But at 41 years old, this is still a very young candidate who is clearly at the top of his field as an executive in this league if he's already getting looks to be a general manager. He has spent time scouting the draft and putting together those draft boards with San Francisco, like I mentioned a couple minutes ago, in the later rounds. But interested to see what the strategy is in the early rounds for him as the Titans begin that process.
And I think we know, this team, the needs that it has and the importance. Let's capitalize those, that word importance of getting it right.
Yeah.
He's coming into here knowing that it hasn't worked out early on in this draft in the past few years.
Have to know that,
you
right?
You have to know what you're getting yourself into. You've got to hit, man. You have to.
Yeah. And you got to close this gap. I think you said this earlier, right, Will? Or we had a caller as far as like Jacksonville hitting on their in-house guys, their draft guys. Might have been Mike out of Clarksville that brought that up. Like you got to catch that, whatever that was, as far as keeping this team together and competitive.
And I think when you get someone with Ran Carthon's pedigree of pro scouting and of trades, it feels like, and this is a discussion for later in the week, that the Titans will likely try to fill immediate needs with veterans, with free agents, with trades, versus filling needs and holes through the draft.
That's interesting. Mike Vrabel actually said that in his press conference. The first thing we're going to do is look at the free agents.
And I think that's been the strategy in Buffalo. And in detailing Malik Boyd's resume yesterday, who met with the Titans, that's the way Buffalo did business.
Yeah.
They signed free agents to fill immediate holes that needed to be filled with new players as starters right then.
Yeah.
They built a foundation through the draft. I see that as the logical next step.
I mean, with just in general, 4 spots on the OL. You can't get all that through the draft.
No.
No.
And coming up next, you got a spot at offensive coordinator as well. And one name in particular is available for the Titans who has experience with Ran Carthon in the past. How the GM hire might impact who Mike Vrabel brings in, and one name to think about over the next couple of days for OC. That's coming up next at halftime of the show this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, 104.5 The Zone.
At Genesis Diamonds, it's not just a new year. It's a new opportunity to bring you more choices, more value, more ways to celebrate your love. For this year, Genesis has expanded their selection of exquisite hand-picked diamonds from a half a carat to 15 carats, all shapes, all sizes, all at our famous no middleman prices. This year especially, the folks at Genesis know price matter, and they're committed to delivering the best value every day. They have also brought in even more exclusive designer jewelry, new cutting-edge fashion forward rings, earrings, bands, bracelets, pendants, things you can't find anywhere else. And of course, Genesis is proud to offer truly spectacular collection of luxury pre-owned Rolex timepieces. They have all the most popular models in stocks with no wait list and no restrictions. Get to Genesis in 2023 and let their non-commissioned experts help you celebrate those important milestones. Genesis always guarantees the best value, the highest quality, and the strongest warranties in this jewelry industry. Genesis Diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolex timepieces.
8:01. Good morning. I'm Jonathan Schaefer from the Superbook.com sports desk. According to multiple reports, the Tennessee Titans are set to make 49ers executive Ran Carthon their next general manager. He brings 15 years of front office experience to the Titans. Carthon spent the past 2 seasons as director of player personnel after serving 5 seasons as director of pro personnel with the Niners. Carthon also previously worked with the Rams and Falcons. He was an undrafted rookie with the Indianapolis Colts in 2004. That's how he broke into the league. Played for the Colts through the 2006 season. To the hardwood, number 9 Tennessee defeated Mississippi State 70-59. Zakai Ziegler had a game-high 24 points along with 6 rebounds and 3 steals. Number 4 Alabama defeated Vanderbilt 78-66. The Doors were without Liam Robbins, who sprained his ankle in practice. He's expected to be out 4 to 6 weeks. Belmont won over Murray State 80-65. Nashville defeated Columbus 2-1 on the ice. The Preds have won 2 in a row. Raleigh Foundation Repair and Waterproofing needs. Visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
And the show goes on into the second half this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by all 4 Seasons Garage Doors. Crew's all here, recapping the big news of the day that Ran Carthon will reportedly become the new general manager of the Tennessee Titans with 11-year NFL veteran Ramon Foster. The journalist whose J is always capitalized. Her name is Kayla Anderson, and Jonathan Schaefer, known better around these parts as the best producer in the world.
The best producer in the world.
Of the world, Craig. The world.
I'm Will Bowling. You can join us on the phone lines at 615-737-1045. And now that you've got your GM, the attention turns to offensive coordinator. And allow me to bring up one name who spent a lot of time in San Francisco with Ran Carthon and was just made available to become an offensive coordinator again. Mike LaFleur.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Former New York Jets OC, was the passing game coordinator for the 49ers the year Ran Carthon got there in 2017. He served in that role through 2020 and was with the New York Jets each of the last 2 seasons. The rumor over the last 48 hours has been, guys, that Mike LaFleur is going to replace Liam Cohen with the Los Angeles Rams. Cohen, after 1 year with LA, is now the offensive coordinator again at the University of Kentucky. That's not official yet, although that has been the working knowledge within the NFL media. So perhaps LaFleur takes another look at the Titans in an offense that would be similar to the Kyle Shanahan system in San Francisco, with a general manager now that he has familiarity with in his time with the 49ers.
My biggest thing, I can't tell you a whole lot about him other than this: young, youth, transitioning into a different style of offense. I know people, it's easy to compare what his tenure was like as the play caller, but this is my thing with guidance, with a proper staff, with trying to get it together. This is a young guy who may get another opportunity, especially if you said, Will, the Rams are considering looking at him again to be their OC, considering the year they had offensively. As far as Zach Wilson and what they've done for that offense and how they kind of tried to hold it together, and they also had a skid, I don't know. I can't judge that. We'll just have to see. That's just where I'm at with it.
Yeah, there's a lot of question marks still for me, particularly with Mike LaFleur. However, when it comes to this business, and you could probably speak on this more because you've been in the NFL locker rooms and have been around management, but when you have certain relationships with certain people, they're definitely on your list, your short list of guys you've got to bring in. And this is not a small position. This is the offensive coordinator position that you know a lot of things are going to have to improve. And if you have familiarity with the guy, you work well with the guy, that to me is probably an option.
Yeah.
And I don't know what will happen with the Rams, but I would think that Rand might have him on the list.
Yeah.
Now, did he do a lot with this Jets offense the past year?
No, the Jets
no,
offense
but that was also a you-know-what show with Zach Wilson
Giano.
at quarterback and the things that he kind of did to self-destruct.
Yeah, and another little tidbit is this, because they highlighted him so much on the Monday night game. Coaches fail at certain stuff and move to different places and do better. Dan Quinn is the guy that comes to mind when it comes down to, hey, not a great head coach, but look, he's a heck of a defensive coordinator and play call as far as that goes. So to Kayla's point, this industry is a cycle of who knows who, and, hey, can you work with us in this situation?
Another name that Ran Carthon is linked to is Bill Parcells, because Ran Carthon has said that his father wanted to get into a front office role after winning 2 Super Bowls with the New York Giants during an 8-year career as a fullback in the National Football League. Spent time in the USFL as well. But Hall of Famer Bill Parcells talked Maurice Carthon into coaching, which he did for nearly 2 decades at various stops as a running backs coach, offensive coordinator, and assistant head coach. Ramon, how valuable is it to not only have the playing experience in the front office and the general manager role, but you've got recent playing experience from 2004 to 2006 in ties to Bill Parcells with his dad and Bill Polian when he was in Indianapolis Colts?
That's huge. One, he's been around it. We hear about these guys all the time that are just backroom nerds and just ingest everything that's been around them as far as the understanding of the game. That plays a huge part, because you say, I know at least the sentiments in which these guys are going through. I know when I evaluate this guy and I ask him hard questions, I know what his response should be. It gives you that insight in it. And I'll say this too, it also gives you the leverage of being able to lean on people older than you. That's a huge aspect of this too. Like, he is a young guy going into this, Ran Carthon is, but the people management aspect and just understanding older guys that's been in those positions, the Parcells, his dad, and just everybody else around that circle, I'm sure it's not going to be something that's different. I listened to Ken Griffey Jr. speak on one of his interviews that he had with Ryan Clark. And one of the things that he said was, man, I just being around my dad's friends, which his dad played in the MLB too. It was like, that's where a lot of my game came from, just listening to them, watching them, understanding them. And being there sometimes is just as valuable as the actual work. And I think, Will, to your point, look, he has a history in it. Some stuff may be seamless to him that he don't even understand in decision-making or letting go of a guy. Because his dad's probably come home and had those conversations before. Hey, we had to let go of your hero on this team. Why? Well, it was better for us. You know, like, that's a part of it, too.
615-737-1045, our number. Alvin is up next this morning with us on the phone lines. Hey, Alvin.
What's up, Al?
Hey, good morning. How y'all doing?
Good.
Hey, let me start off with a Aaron Rodgers quote. Relax. Relax. The man ain't even got a house in Nashville yet. Get a man a chance. But the question I have for you, guys and ladies, I wanted to know, do you think with him coming in, you think it's best to go ahead and blow it up? The reason why I'm asking is because I believe in the next, 3-4 years, we're supposed to have a new stadium. Mm-hmm. So is it best to go ahead and blow it up now, or should we just, rebuild on what we already have in the locker room? Because my thing is, I know Derrick Henry was second in the league in rushing, but I would probably say the way he's taking the beating, he probably got another year or two. And that's with that stadium, my thing is, if you got value on these players like Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill, why not blow it up now? And another thing I want to know, why are they not talking about the training staff or whatever?
Yeah. As
far as these players getting hurt, they're not speaking on that. They just let go of the offense coordinator, which was a good job. But they're not speaking on the staff as far as these injuries go. I'm gonna hang up and listen.
Appreciate it, Alvin. I'll address that first real quick.
Yeah,
I think
you said that earlier. Oh, which part?
On the strength coach
Oh,
part.
okay. I got a question for you, too.
I think the Titans believe that a lot of that is under their own control and under the players' control in terms of soft tissue injuries. And it's a complex issue beyond just, hey, if the offensive line isn't blocking well, get a new line coach. Guys getting hurt in droves isn't just correlated to the strength coach.
No.
There are a lot more variables in that have nothing to do with the strength coach, where I think the entire coaching staff has to kind of look inwards and say, what are we doing that is hurting our players so much in practice? But I think that just the Titans as a whole believe that there's a lot of that is under their own control within the people who are already there, which starts with working out the way you're supposed to throughout the offseason.
Well, and they could evaluate the staff in the offseason, absolutely. Yep. And I think they will. But I think there's also more emphasis put on some of these individual players, like Mike Vrabel had kind of called out, with putting more work in the offseason.
Yeah.
Getting a better plan for yourself. I specifically even talked to Elijah Molden, who suffered not one but 2 groin tears this season. And he said, I'm changing the way that I'm doing things. I'm going to, get in the offseason and work on some things. And that's, I'm sure, what David Long Jr. is going to have to do. So a lot of this falls on the individuals, I think, this offseason too, and what they do to plan to keep their bodies right. Like, go train with Kevin Byard, y'all. Right. Go train with Kevin Byard.
Yeah. Well, I got a question for you, because the first part of Alvin questions was, what do you do? Do you implode it? Start anew? And you mentioned something earlier about Rand's tenure or his under leadership with the 49ers. They traded away high guys, and you even teased this in the 6th. You said something about, do you get rid of Jeff and get more draft capital? If you want to break that down, if you had your notes on you with that.
Yeah, I mean, Ran Carthon was a part of the 49ers front office when they traded DeForest Buckner for a first-round pick.
Yeah.
So that's the information there. I think everything's on the table still. I think we'll learn probably in the coming days and weeks just how aggressive Ran Carthon wants to be in winning now. I think we do know, though, that John Robinson started the rebuild last offseason, this time last year, by trading away A.J. Brown and starting as many rookies as this team had to start this year. But you almost wonder at the time, was John Robinson let go because he was too hesitant to try to go all in and win now? Because Les Snead and the LA Rams said, bleep them picks is their motto this past year.
He did.
Literally. I'm literally word for word quoting what he said at their championship parade on a T-shirt. He had no interest in having draft picks and wanted to go all in. Was Ran Carthon hired to then rebuild it and make up for John Robinson not going all in? Or was he hired to run this thing back and immediately try to win now?
Yeah, and those are the questions that'll be interesting to see, because they're going to have to be answered pretty quickly.
Yes, they are.
But as far as draft options go, the Titans have a number of choices at number 11. And coming up next, we chat with Mike Renner of Pro Football Focus, Paris Johnson, the left tackle out of Ohio State, Will Levis at Kentucky. Where does he fall in the top 10? And is Tennessee's Hendon Hooker an option to play in the two-tone duo? I think a lot of people would enjoy that. Coming up next, Mike Renner of PFF joins us on Ramon, Kalen, and Will, 104.5 The Zone.
It's Ramon Foster for Craftsman on the Hill. Mon, what's Craftsman on the Hill? Well, let me tell you, it's one of the best bars around, located at 3424 Lebanon Pike in Hermitage. They got one of the best bar menus around, including their all delicious smoked wings. You hear me? They have other things on the menu too, like burgers, quesadillas, chicken tenders, chicken sandwiches, and several homemade sauces, including a white barbecue sauce. If you haven't tried that, please go check it out. It's a little cool outside still, and they still have their smoked brisket chili served every single day. On Fridays, you can go pick you up a catfish plate, sit at the bar if you want to, enjoy it there, or just take it home with you. Every single night, they have something from you. Monday night, trivia night, Tuesday, karaoke. There are poker tournaments throughout the week for you guys want to sit back and just play some Hold'em. It's the perfect place to support your college team and the two-tone blue when they're on TV. Why? Because they have plenty of TVs to watch your favorite sports and sports team. It is locally owned and operated with new management, too. They have everything you can think of that you want to drink, from beer to spirits to plenty of nightly drink and food specials. Monday through Sunday, Craftsman on the Hill, located 3424 Lebanon Pike in Hermitage.
Wednesday edition of Ramon, Kayla, and Will is powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors right here at 104.5 The Zone. Alongside 11-year NFL veteran Ramon Foster, our broadcast journalist veteran Kayla Anderson, I'm Will Bowling. Ran Carthon, the new GM in the Music City, reportedly yesterday, and now the first draft board for the 41-year-old from the University of Florida. And joining us to discuss that draft board and where the Titans can go at number 11 and beyond, Mike Renner of Pro Football Focus joins us this morning. Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, and the timing is good with the news yesterday here in Nashville that Ran Carthon is the guy as the new GM. As you begin to look at the Titans' needs and the options at number 11, what sticks out to you the most about the needs for this team going into the offseason?
I think it's the offensive line, right? It's just degraded from a few years ago when it was one of the better ones in the NFL. Just too many losses, and now obviously have to factor in what you're going to do with Taylor Lewan. He's even going to be healthy enough, or is even going to be part of your plans going forward. So offensive line seems like need one and need two if I'm trying to rebuild this franchise. Just get some cornerstones up front. And while it's not a great offensive line class, I think you're drafting high enough at number 11 that you may be able to get the top offensive tackle on the board, or at least the second best offensive tackle on the board.
And a lot of people have started to suggest that guy is Paris Johnson from Ohio State. How would he fit in with what the Titans do in blocking for Derrick Henry in the run game? And what do you like about this kid at number 11 potentially?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have made that pairing because he's a tremendous run blocker. Like that is his bread and butter. He has ideal size, ideal strength, ideal athleticism, like the physicality. It's all there for him to be a special offensive tackle prospect. It's just he hasn't played a ton of offensive tackle, truthfully. He started off his career at Ohio State at right guard before switching to left tackle this past season because obviously Nicholas Petit-Frere, who's a Tennessee Titan as well, was starting at left tackle the year before that. So pairing those two guys back up, I do think would give you just a nice starting point at the tackle position.
That's the question, too, I have for you. Other than your elite guys, like your top 25, probably first-round guys or center or even guards, man, how do you draft accordingly to team needs at those positions? Where do you usually get a tackle? Where's still a good guard and center combo in the draft?
Yeah, the thing about tackles, at least like the elite ones, is it's rare to find outside like the top 15 picks. Yeah. You just go look at the list, whether it's Trent Williams, whether it's Lane Johnson, Tristan Wirfs. These guys were all known to be those guys. It's rare to find, the Jordan Mailatas, the Jason Peters. Those guys are the oddities. So if you want an elite tackle, chances are it's going to have to happen with that first pick. Now, guard centers is a different conversation. A lot of times those guys, middle of day two is kind of the sweet spot for where you can find a lot of talent at that position or even later in the draft. So if I need a tackle, I'm not waiting until the second round. I'm not waiting until the third round. It's got to be that first pick.
And the other portion of this, too, I think we're starting to realize some stuff as far as quarterback play because everybody's trying to, tank for a guy and whatnot. Have you guys kind of viewed that position a little bit more different considering we're seeing Zach Wilson's situation kind of fizzled out? We're seeing, other quarterbacks just have questions as far as those early draft picks go. Where is the quarterback position now as far as drafting and as far as planning to pay them if they do pan out? Is that going to change some?
I don't think it's going to change at all. I think you're going to see teams more willing to take more shots at the quarterback position, honestly. I think just because of how many teams around the NFL, whether it's the Jaguars, whether it's the Bengals, whether it's, even like the Bills, how much your fortune can change when you hit on those guys. It's like those are the ones, even like the Eagles with Jalen Hurts, like how much that getting that guy in the fold all of a sudden changes the trajectory of your franchise for the next decade. So I think you have teams like the Lions and the Commanders who are regretting passing on someone like a Justin Herbert in that 2020 draft, and you're going to see teams less willing to do that in the future. And so while there may be the whiffs, I think you're going to see teams coming to the table with better plans to develop these guys in the future. And not just when you're just taking a quarterback, it's not quite like every other position in the draft where it's just like, okay, he's now part of the franchise, part of the fold, just get him in the mix. It's like, no, you have to put things around him, put structures in place that are specifically geared towards his development, because if not, chances are it's going to look like maybe like what Justin Fields looks like in Chicago, where he could be good, but the rest of it's so bad that you're all of a sudden in trouble and not necessarily knowing what you have at that quarterback position.
So on the note of the quarterback position, we know that C.J. Stroud finally declared for the draft. It took him a minute, but you also have Bryce Young and you have the polarizing Will Levis. Who has the most upside just from what you'd seen? And I know it's all about the transition too. Like, can they be that NFL quarterback? It's hard sometimes to see if that's even a thing.
Yeah, actually, the guy with the most upside is one you didn't even mention. I think Anthony Richardson, the Florida quarterback, is one that I think he's got to go first round. I think he's even going to go top 20 picks because the good Lord only made so many guys 6'4", 240 that are going to run like low 4.5s that can throw the ball 80 yards. I mean, he is a physical freak in every sense of the word that, yeah, he only completed 53% of his passes last year. And, yeah, he's only played like 12 games in his entire collegiate career, but he's the ultimate wild card. He's like an NBA lottery pick where it's just like someone's going to take that chance because of what I said earlier, the payoff being so great in the NFL at that position. So I think he has the most upside, but it is a very good quarterback class. I think that's getting undersold, that those guys at the top are real deal prospects. And maybe because next year's class of Caleb Williams and Drake May is already getting hyped up that people are kind of poo-pooing this class. But I do think those three that you mentioned before, Stroud, Young, and Levis, are all tremendous prospects. And so I anticipate them going highly, unlike what we saw last year.
So with saying that, you get in a new GM and you don't know what's going to happen. What we do know is the quarterback situation in Tennessee for the future is still unknown, because there's a chance they bring Ryan Tannehill back. There's a chance that maybe they just blow it up. If there were to be a quarterback that falls to 11, do you take a guy?
Ooh, that's tough. I mean, Tannehill's good. Like that's the conundrum. Tannehill is a very good quarterback in his own right, probably somewhere in the 10 to 14 range if you're stacking up the quarterbacks around the NFL. But the thing is, to win Super Bowls, you better be 1 to 8 range, or you better have an elite roster around that guy. And objectively, the Titans do not have an elite roster right now. So if you're looking forward, you're saying, yeah, he's good, but we're paying him a lot right now. And after this year, I think, which I believe is his last year of his deal, we're going to be paying him even more after that because of just the way the quarterback contracts work, to where, yeah, you have a guy like Malik Willis there to develop, but you're a brand new GM now. You're basically a whole new staff in terms of a lot of guys there outside of Mike Vrabel. So you're not beholden to anyone in the building. So depending on who's there, I think about it, but I do think this roster is so bad that you need to build it up elsewhere at this point. So I think long and hard, but probably look elsewhere.
Mike Renner, our guest, Pro Football Focus lead draft analyst, with us this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Mike, wanted to ask you about a quarterback who head-to-head beat both Levis and Anthony Richardson, and Tennessee's Hendon Hooker, coming off the big injury against South Carolina, but just what he showcased in his super senior year. What kind of pro potential do you think he has?
Yeah, it's really too bad they tore his ACL, because he was going to be fringe first rounder, probably a second rounder, but it's really a tough sell now that maybe he may not have an off season to, absorb an NFL playbook, may not even get, reps as in his rookie year. And he's already an older prospect, already going to be 25 years old as a rookie. So you're thinking about a guy who may not even see the field until he's 26 years old. Very Brandon Whedon-esque there, which never something you want to be in a conversation with. So I do think that really hurt him. I could see him slipping to the end of day 2, even into day 3 because of that. But, man, he's so toolsy. I mean, heck of an athlete, one of the better runners in this class. Has a big arm, too. I will say that Tennessee offense, a little gimmicky, not necessarily projectable to the NFL, which is also going to be kind of a strike against them in his prospect profile. But was a guy I would have loved to have taken, probably somewhere in the middle of day 2 prior to the injury. But now at this point, he's just so far behind developmentally that I think he, like I said, may slip to the 3rd, 4th round.
Well, Mike, what about his favorite target and the Biletnikoff Award winner and Jalen Hyatt? I know Mike Vrabel mentioned the need for Tennessee to get a lot quicker here in Nashville. Is the guy at about 2.5 hours down the road on I-40 an option for the Titans?
Oh, he's going to make every team in the NFL quicker that he goes to. He is elite athlete. The juice he brings to the table is as good as you'll see in this draft class at the receiver position. And if there is one trait, and we have done the studies that correlates to draft position the most at the wide receiver position, it's speed. Guys who run the fastest 40s get overdrafted consistently. And not to say that Jalen Hyatt's going to get overdrafted, that he's not worthy of, a top 50 pick, but he's going to go higher than probably, his all-around tape might suggest, and it's going to be coveted just because if you want 4.3, there's only a few guys every year that run it. So, Jalen Hyatt, great ball skills, elite speed, still developing as a route runner, but that's, the Tennessee offense as well. So I do expect him to be a top 50 pick.
Man, Mike, I have people, I know you break all this stuff down and have been for a while, but I witnessed it in person. You understand me? This kid out of Alabama, Bryce Young, I know he's a first rounder, but why isn't he the number 1 overall guy according to some boards right now? I saw it, and I'm a believer, man.
You'll have to ask them because I'm as big a believer as there gets. I think he is special, like a special tier of prospect, similar to, I don't want to say Trevor Lawrence because he obviously doesn't have that size, but like if he was 6'4", he'd be in that conversation. Like he is that good on a football field. And for the people who say, oh, how's this game going to translate to the NFL? He's only 6 foot. He's, not even 200 pounds. Just go back to the Georgia game from last year, SEC championship game. That was an NFL defense. That had 5 first-rounders last year, going to have like 3 more first-rounders this year on that defense. It was stacked. And he lit them up for 400 yards, multiple touchdowns, just buried them. That's you can't fake that, in my opinion. I don't care what talent you're working with. So, yeah, Bryce Young, like I said, you're going to have to ask someone else because I'm as big a believer as it gets.
Okay, on the other side, I'll be real with you with this one. Where are you at on Will Levis, man? I know he gets the highest praise. Will just gave me somebody mock a second ago that had him trading up to go get Will Levis, man. What's the intriguing aspect of having him that high up?
I think the intriguing aspect is just that it's similar to Daniel Jones at Duke, where he's going to go to the NFL, and his job is legitimately going to be easier than it was in college because as much as, the game does get faster, the windows, quote unquote, get smaller. If you flip on the tape at Kentucky, there were no windows to hit in the first place. Like his receivers were not getting open this past fall. His offensive line, he was under pressure at a higher rate than all but I believe 3 quarterbacks in the NFL this past season. So basically, if he goes to any modicum of an average or above average offensive line with any talent at the wide receiver position, his life's going to be easier. And he already, wasn't making a lot of mistakes with the football in a bad situation. He already showed good pocket presence, the ability to make plays under pressure. I think he averaged 9.2 yards per attempt this season under pressure, which is actually higher than it was when he was kept clean. So, there's stats and reasons to believe that his game is translatable to the NFL. Now, is he going to be elite and put up big numbers once he is in a better situation? That's the tough part to say, and we don't know that, and that's the whole beauty of scouting and projection. But he has all the physical tools to be an elite quarterback at the next level and just was put in a situation where he was never going to succeed, never going to put up big numbers. So I think that's the selling point, and that's why NFL evaluators are still going to bet on the physical ability rather than just stats.
The Senior Bowl is coming up in Mobile. We can't wait. And I know that this is such a big week. It's more the week than the game for some of these players to really raise their draft stock. I always use the example of Terry McLaurin coming out of Ohio State, that he used that week to really up his draft stock, and now you can see what he's done at the pro level. Is there anybody that you feel can up their draft stock in that first week of February?
Ooh, I'm trying to think of the Senior Bowl guys right now. It put me on the spot a little bit there.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm trying to think. There's a guy by the name of Rashee Rice coming out of SMU that at the receiver position that I think is going to light it up there. He's a tremendous route runner. I think he could ultimately be a top 50, probably a second-round pick after that week of practice. And the other guy I'll highlight is Tank Dell, Houston wide receiver. 2 very different types of wide receivers. Rashee Rice, more your possession, underneath route runner, big, 6'2", over 200 pounds, going to make a lot of contested catches, whereas Tank Dell is 5'10", 165, but I think he hit over 21 miles per hour on the GPS, I believe the 5th most in college football at the receiver position this year. So he could fly. Separator, I think, had 17 touchdowns this past season. So those two guys, because obviously, like you said, Terry McLaurin, like the receivers,
Yeah.
the DBs, those are the guys who could separate
Okay.
themselves. If you're going down there and watching like linebackers, there's really not much you can see there.
Mike Renner has been our guest this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will at PFF_Mike is where you can find him as draft season already begins here in Music City. Mike, thanks so much for the time.
For sure. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, there is Mike Renner with us this morning on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. Some things to react to there, specifically the comment on Anthony Richardson that I think is interesting. Coming up next. And another fellow Florida Gator with your new general manager here in Nashville. Coming up next on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, 104.5 The Zone. Great conversation with Mike Renner of Pro Football Focus this morning, detailing the top prospects the Titans could get at number 11. But the top quarterback in the draft is probably going to surprise you that he had to tell us. It's Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, a 104.5 The Zone. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, and Will Bowling with you. Mike Renner has Bryce Young number 1, and you're in alignment with that he's the guy in this class. But the question about the highest ceiling was interesting because he has Ran Carthon's fellow Florida Gator, Anthony Richardson, as the number 1 highest ceiling quarterback. What's y'all's reaction to that?
I can understand it, but he going to need time to grow, though, too. He's going to need time. Day 1 starter, I don't know. I can see what he's saying. The size, the arm, the athletic ability. Jalen Hurts, it seemed like plus 1 or 2, it seemed like that's the way he broke him down.
Yeah. I wasn't surprised that he kind of went out on a limb there just because we were kind of basically saying, here's the 3 guys that everybody's talking about. But ceiling, like, potential, okay, maybe. But if I'm drafting this guy in the first round, I'm not taking him. Like, there's just too much work to be done. I get it. He's 6'4", 230 pounds. This could be a guy that potentially you could be like, wow, we took a chance and this is the guy. But I just don't think you can do that in the first round. He has upside, absolutely. But the other guys, even a Will Levis, I feel like have proven more to be first-round picks.
His game against Tennessee, and I know our defense was trash at that point in time, he was lights out to me.
Yeah.
I'll give him that.
Yeah, he had a couple really good games this year.
Oh, my gosh, he was lights out.
Here's the thing that Jeff Schwartz said last week with us that I think is really appropriate for guys like that. Don't make it more complicated than it needs to be. Just take the best player.
Keep it simple, stupid. Is that what the phrase is?
I care less about ceiling than I ever have with this team because I've seen this team take too many players that were toolsy that could be molded into a good player. Just take the guy that's a good player.
I'm going through Anthony Richardson highlights right now. That Utah game.
The highlights can be,
I know, but the Utah game was phenomenal, though. That was 2 games that really did well. Utah and UT.
Was that the start of the season, guys?
Yeah.
Utah? Okay.
He still didn't have a passing touchdown in that game. Like, his first
In
passing.
Utah?
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he did.
He did not have a passing touchdown.
Yes, I just saw it.
It was a 2-point conversion.
Was that a 2-point conversion? Oh,
it's a 2-point conversion.
Say less.
His first passing touchdown of the season was against Tennessee.
Which was how many games in?
3, 4.
Okay.
So that's the thing for him. It was 4 at that point. Tennessee had Akron. It's been a long year. But essentially, you've got a quarterback there that now is going to be probably the Josh Allen of the class. This is a copycat league, guys, and the question I have now is, does Will Levis benefit from Daniel Jones taking the step that he has this year? Because if Mike Renner is making that comparison and saying Will Levis is the Daniel Jones of this class, meaning that his weapons are going to get better, his job is going to get easier in the NFL, are you willing to wait as long as the Giants have had to wait to the last year of a guy's rookie contract for them to be the guy and take you on a playoff run?
But look what had to happen, though.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I know. Am I willing to bet on Will Levis? Like, if I'm getting Will Levis or any of these young, even Anthony Richardson, if I'm getting either one of those 2 guys that I know, look, there needs to be growth. There needs to be a little bit of, planning around him. We got to make sure free agency's good. His O-line is good. And we got to simplify it early. If you're in that position, yes. I'd say it's automatic. Like, watching those guys with their talent that they naturally have, to me, you got to have the right position. It's got to be the best scenario for you. Will Levis going to the Texans, to me, makes 0 sense. But as aggressive as the Colts are, Will Levis going to the Colts makes sense. They got an OL and they were just bad this year. So I can say they'll be better next year. And that's what Mike was saying in his conversation with us, is he's going to go to a better situation.
And a lot of times, at least what we've seen in the past few years, teams don't have the patience to do what the Giants did with Daniel Jones. I mean, teams have just been like one and done, or you're out after the first or second. It doesn't happen in this day and age in the NFL. So if there's a team that's going to be a little more patient with knowing that is the guy, they're going to give him a little more time. But that's just not the overall, in my opinion, I don't think that's overall what the NFL is. There's no time anymore.
Because Mike alluded to that, though. It's like, no, I think they're going to still go get quarterbacks because you see.
That's what he was,
yeah. You see those guys that have success like that. So, Anthony Richardson, this is, man, after hearing that.
It's interesting.
But again, I'll say this before we get deeper into it. There's always quarterback season during the draft. It always is.
It always is. You're right.
And that is the profile of quarterback I think the Titans would look for in this offseason is someone to sit behind Ryan Tannehill for another year on his contract as he plays out his deal.
Can I ask you something, Will?
You may.
Kayla, listeners, if you're in that position and you're at 11, who do you want, Paris Johnson or do you want Anthony Richardson?
Paris.
And there's a lot that has to be changed. And the draft is such an elementary topic before free agency because there are so many moves that this team will make that will give us more clarity. But as we speak today on January the 18th, I agree with Mike Renner's analysis that this team has a lot more needs than just going for the shiny quarterback with the big arm.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Joe Milton can also throw it 80 yards, but
he sure can.
Which Derrick Henry's quote on Bustle with the Boys about Joe Milton was so funny. Did you see this?
No, I did not.
Derrick Henry was talking about Hendon Hooker and talking about Tennessee, and he made a comment to Taylor Lewan, Will Compton, where he essentially just said, I just hate to see Hendon Hooker get hurt. I just really hate that.
Yeah.
And he says, that backup? He nice. Boy, he nice. And that's all he just over and over again. And then asked one of the, production guys, like, is he back next year?
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, told the story, he missed out on being the starter, was overthrowing guys. He goes, not no more. He nice.
Derrick's in tune, man.
As one of the most efficient quarterbacks in NFL history, I think Derrick Henry can speak on the quarterback position.
No doubt.
That's for sure.
Let me throw this little nugget out there, too. Florida also has a high-rated guard that's coming out this year, too.
That's right.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Coming up next, fourth quarter of the show, and we'll go ahead and throw four fingers in the air around Nashville, Tennessee. Because the show gets better in the fourth quarter. Rhett Bryan will join us. His thoughts on Ran Carthon. More draft background in Ran's career as the director of pro personnel for the San Francisco 49ers. And Inky Johnson, midweek motivation coming up in hour 4-2 as we continue. Next on our Mode Kayla and Will, 104.5 The Zone.
Kayla.
Yo.
This is me and you talking about
It
the
is.
people we know and love. Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, Kayla. Let me just tell you this. They are the heating and cooling company that can take care of all your HVAC needs. You hear me? They are also a York certified expert company. And the best part about that, too, one, that's a good brand. It's a really good brand, okay?
Mm-hmm.
If you have one of those on your house, Kayla, you got a really nice house. But, hey, get that. But it's always backed by 10-year parts and labor warranties on those York products, too.
Here's what I love about Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, because we actually got to sit down with this family. And it's truly a family-owned business known for their outstanding customer service, Ramon. Why? Because it's not a company reputation that they can hide behind, but their family reputation, and they put it on the line every single day. The Spring Hill Heating and Cooling family responds promptly to issues and gets the problems resolved quickly and accurately, and that's big. We're in a place that the weather changes all the time.
Yeah, real soon today, like in the next 24, 48 hours too. So if you need some service to your AC unit or heating unit or just around your house in general, go to springhillac.com. And when they answer you back, please be sure to please be sure to tell them that Kayla and Ramon sent you.
9 o'clock. Good morning. I'm Jonathan Schaefer from the Superbook.com sports desk. According to multiple reports, the Tennessee Titans are set to make 49ers executive Ran Carthon their next general manager. He brings 15 years of experience to the Titans. Carthon spent the past 2 seasons as director of player personnel after serving 5 seasons as the director of pro personnel with the Niners. Carthon also previously worked with the Rams and Falcons. He was an undrafted rookie with the Indianapolis Colts in 2004 and played for them through the 2006 season. Men's college basketball last night, number 9 Tennessee defeated Mississippi State 70-59. Zakai Ziegler had a game-high 24 points along with 6 rebounds and 3 steals. Number 4 Alabama defeated Vanderbilt 78-66. The Doors were without Liam Robbins, who sprained his ankle in practice. He's expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks. And Belmont defeated their rival in Murray State 80-65. To the ice, Nashville defeated Columbus 2-1. The Preds have won 2 in a row. Raleigh Foundation repair and waterproofing needs. Visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
And the show goes on into the fourth and final hour, the fourth quarter, on a show that gets better in the second half. Ramon, Kayla, and Will is powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. With an 11-year NFL veteran, he's evolved for life, and he's got his orange-tinted glasses. Ramon Foster, the capitalized J journalist, a broadcast veteran in Nashville and beyond, named Kayla Anderson, and not the second best, but the best producer in the world, Jonathan Schaefer.
The best producer in the world!
Making the show happen and stirring the pot of violence behind the glass for us each and every morning.
Yeah.
And joining us, as he does every Wednesday at this time, Rhett Bryan, the executive producer of Titans Radio, presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. Need great healthcare coverage with an affordable price tag? Let Farm Bureau Health Plans coach you through it. They've been protecting Tennesseans for 75 years. Good morning, Rhett.
Good morning, everyone. How are we?
It's a big day.
It is a big day. And I tell you, it's funny that I know you're going to ask me about Ran Carthon. Just literally got a phone call with Coach Mack as you guys were getting into your last break there. And he's excited, to say the least. And I know you're going to have Coach Mack on, tomorrow? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So Coach Mack worked with Ran when he was in their scouting department, when Ran was in their scouting department, both in St. Louis and in the first year in L.A. He said, I worked with that guy every day for 5 years. And he said, that's a dude. He said, you're going to love him. This is a big hire. And he said, he without a doubt was the best that we had in that department during that time. He said, I worked with him every day for 5 years. And so I forget who it was on Twitter I saw earlier that talked about how he was kind of, in his tenure with the 49ers, is in charge of the late picks in the draft.
David Lombardi of the Athletics.
There we go. So I started looking at their draft classes. Let's go through this in late round picks and just talk about the influence that Ran Carthon has on this current 49ers roster that is going to be, good Lord, what a game that's going to be this weekend against Cowboys.
Yeah.
2019, 5th round pick, linebacker Dre Greenlaw. Bad boy.
Starter.
109 tackles, 6 pass breakups, and an interception. Starter. Exactly right. Then in 2020, 7th round, pick number 217, wide receiver for the University of Tennessee.
Go on!
Jawan Jennings.
What a turn of events.
2021 now. 5th round pick, cornerback, Oregon, Diamador Lenore, who is now a starter because Emmanuel Mosley was ruled out in week 5 and with an ACL, 79 tackles, 1 sack, 5 pass breakups. Starter.
Starter.
That same draft in 2021, Another fifth-round selection, Talanoa Hufanga, the safety from Southern Cal,
Beast.
who has just been named the 2022 Polynesian Pro Football Player of the Year starter. 95 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 9 pass breakups, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 4 interceptions. One of those returned for a touchdown, 52 yards.
Also, a bigger accolade, also to Rhett Bryan. I know you're not neglectful. You left that up to me unless I just wasn't listening to you in that moment. I'm always listening to Rhett Bryan. You hear me?
Go.
All pro.
Bingo.
Dang.
Not Pro Bowl. You can have all Pro Bowls you want.
Yeah.
You got all pro tacked to your name, you're doing something right.
Dude.
Right. And also in that same draft, in the 6th round, running back from Louisiana, Elijah Mitchell, who has been injured quite a bit in the first couple of years, but is a serious contributor. And obviously in this year's draft, quarterback from Penn State, Tariq Castro-Fields, who is working his way into things. And then the one that you don't even need to say except Mr. Irrelevant, pick number 262 in the 7th round, quarterback Brock Purdy, Iowa State. Pretty good stuff right there.
Yeah.
So, and by all indications, he's a dude. He's a guy. And, I remember him from his time with the Colts because obviously that's an AFC South division deal, and we would see him twice a year in the short time he was in the league. And obviously his father, Maurice was a dude too, played for Bill Parcells and, was part of that Giants staff. And then oddly enough was assistant head coach of the Chiefs and coached Mike Vrabel his last couple of years in the league. But, there's a pedigree here, and I'm excited about the hire. I really am. Every indication I get is this is a guy right here. This is a dude.
I think that's important too, Rhett. So, of course, I outsource a few of my people that I know, from players, from front office folks to just.
I saw you on Twitter last night working the Rolodex. Go ahead.
And what's crazy, folks were offering up stuff. And that right there in this industry, man.
Unsolicited.
Unsolicited, of course. And it was just one of those situations where I'm just like, okay, this is just either that type of home run or just, it really shows something about like his work ethic. Because in this industry, and Matt could tell you, your reputation goes far. Your work ethic goes even farther. And with that being said, you have people that bring certain stuff to you about this guy, and all signs point to, the work gotta be done. The proof's in the pudding when you get these draft picks and these free agent moves. But all signs point to at least he know what the job entails more than the other candidates that you had at this point.
He's worked his way up, no question. You know what else he's got in common with you? Now, he's a Gator, so don't hold that against him. Listen, it's hard. It's a hard thing to deal with, and trust me.
So now we got to work.
But you know what he has a common thread with you?
What's that?
Undrafted rookie free agent.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, he didn't have as long a run in the NFL as you did, but he's been where you were.
Yeah.
So I know he's a worker.
Yeah.
Just by thinking about that, he's got to be a grinder.
And Will brought up a great point too. Is earlier as far as being around the game, Rhett, his dad.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? What conversations have you had just being around that you say, wow, I didn't know that. I didn't understand that. But now when stuff happens in game or around the Titans or around the league, you get it.
Mm-hmm.
It's numerous times that type of stuff happen, and he ain't his father. He ain't Bill Parcells. He's none of those people. This got to be a situation in which you say, of all the candidates, and I'm sure Miss Amy's net was wide as she casted it, right?
Sure.
This is by far probably one of the best ones you could have had.
Yeah, listen, a lot of folks were really interested in Ian Cunningham, and with the resume he has, I certainly understand that. Malik Boyd was the last candidate they interviewed, according to the team release, and he was a guy that has a pedigree too. I don't think you could have gone wrong with any of those 2 or 3 guys,
right.
But honestly, I was kind of quietly pulling for Ran Carthon in this, and it's not by what Coach Mack had told me before. I've been reading about this guy, and I'm like, golly, man, and I'm like, is that the same Ran Carthon that was a Colt? I'm like, it is.
Yeah.
The one and the same.
And what does it tell you that they had narrowed it down to 3 candidates, and then all of a sudden they make the hire a few, hours later? At least that's what's being reported. But I thought it was interesting because it's like the collaboration word that was used by Amy Adams Strunk and Mike Vrabel himself.
That there would be a
seemed to
second round of
theme.
interviews and that
That
he
he'd
would be involved.
But
Yeah.
it makes me think that this could have been the great fit for a guy like Mike Vrabel to work with. I know Albert Breer put out a tweet yesterday. Two of the things that stuck out to me: prioritizes toughness in players. Titans' identity won't change. Will change Vrabel like Vrabel does others. I thought
like
that was
that.
interesting.
I like that. Yeah, sure. Now, of course, we don't know behind closed doors how all that process worked because the timeline is skewed, but we haven't heard anything from the team yet.
Right.
And so we don't know if there already has been a second round of interviews because all they've done is just we've gotten the email from Robbie Boren and their department over there saying they have interviewed and concluded these interviews with X, Y, Z, whatever. And so we don't know the full context of everything. Maybe there was a second round, or maybe they liked it well enough, and maybe Mike Vrabel's in the building. They pulled him in there, and they talked, and they're like, "Oh yeah, whatever," and it just hit it off well. And they said, "Okay, let's go." I don't know because there are other positions open, and so that's the other thing that will always skew a timeline. Is that there are other general manager positions open? So,
but I would think that Vrabel had to have some sort of but they had to probably go to him and say, "Hey, what do you think?"
Sure.
If this was their guy.
Well, and like I said, he knows his dad.
Exactly.
And he probably knows him at some point. I mean, all these things are in circles, coaching circles and the like. But, I mean, unless they make it known, I don't know that we'll ever know.
Yeah.
But I just kind of wait and see, what the team says and how all this, there'll be a press conference, obviously. And we don't have any idea about that, but I would expect a statement and a release about when the press conference will be probably later today, if that's what we're talking about. I thought it would be. Honestly, I thought this process would be by the end of this week because
that's what I.
We've already been talking about Senior Bowl stuff with your guy from Pro Football Focus in the last segment, and so I mean that's coming, and you knew that he's going to have to hit the ground running. Now, the interesting dynamic in this, obviously, is the scouting department is all tied to John Robinson, and they're hip deep in draft evaluation and those things. So that won't really change because you're in the middle of that stream. So, I'm sure Ran Carthon has guys that he'll probably bring in of his own to formulate a staff. But I would say that would be a 2024 thing after the draft, or maybe late 2023 thing before they go back out on the road to visit college stuff in the fall.
Ran Carthon twice selected to participate in the NFL Career Development Symposium at the Wharton School of Business in Philadelphia. Spent a lot of time in pro scouting, but had the opportunity to sit down with NFL coaches while he was at Florida even and break down film of prospects. Then we continue the conversation with Rhett Bryan coming up next, taking a look at the guys that Ran Carthon considers his mentors and his dad's mentor as a player and a coach in New York in the National Football League. Some impressive names in the history of the Carthon family in the National Football League. With Rhett Bryan, presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. More coming up on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, 104.5 The Zone.
If you have a wet basement or crawl space, it's time to call United Structural Systems. We've all heard about these guys for a long time, and for good reasons. They've served Middle Tennessee since 1994, and they've helped thousands of satisfied residential customers. They are the go-to company when it comes to foundation repair and waterproofing. So if you have a wet basement or crawl space, you don't have to put up with that. Water intrusion and moisture could give you all sorts of problems down the road, and you want to get this fixed. It could be because you have poor drainage or surface water flooding over the walls, or underwater pressure forcing water into your basement, or it could be a plumbing leak. You just don't know. But the team at United Structural Systems will find out why you have a wet basement or crawl space and will give you a plan to fix it. Thing is, if you do decide to move forward, you don't have to pay a dime until the work is done and you are satisfied. So get that free estimate from the people I trust. Go to USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com, or call them at 615-227-2275. United Structural Systems.
Timon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors right here on 104.5 The Zone. Little Steely Dan for your Wednesday morning. Timon Foster, Kayla Anderson. I'm Will Bowling, joined as always by Rhett Bryan on Wednesdays in Hour 4, presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. It's impressive, Rhett, looking at Ran Carthon's background, and we mentioned with a number of GM candidates the names that they've been associated with. Bill Parcells was the guy that convinced Mo Carthon, his dad, to be a coach instead of a front office executive.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Les Snead with the Rams, John Lynch with the 49ers, and Bill Polian with the Indianapolis Colts. That's a lot of big name, big stars in the front office industry. And we went through earlier as well the trade history the 49ers have had while Ran Carthon has been there. Not just McCaffrey, but trading DeForest Buckner and all the moves they've made.
Sure.
You've got some aggressive general managers in that bunch.
Absolutely. And when you think about Bill Polian, who was in Buffalo before that. So, I mean, he's a Hall of Fame general manager. But, yeah, I'm thinking about – and somebody mentioned, I noticed last night on the Twitter timeline, had mentioned that I think Ran Carthon was instrumental in them acquiring and signing Charvarius Ward as a free agent, the MTSU guy who's, done really well. We went over the late round draft stuff in the last 3 or 4 drafts. And when you think about the other free agent part of it, I'm interested just to kind of see, what his philosophies are and, who his influences were. And I'm sure some of those names you mentioned are a part of that. Guy's 41 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he is, a little bit of an outside the box thinker, just thinking about it. And like I said, I'm excited about the possibility here. Again, I feel like we'll hear something from the team later today on this because, this broke late yesterday afternoon or whatever, going into the evening, and it has, been on those legs for a little over 12 hours now, I guess. And so knowing that timeline, I would think that the Titans would have something about this or something later on today, I would think. Because, there was speculation yesterday that they were going to finish this up by the end of the week. And certainly it got quicker than that. So
it did.
There we go.
Yes, it did. First steps in place for a guy that's coming into this position, not just Ran, but anybody, right? What's one of the one things you'd expect a guy in this position to kind of lay down? Well,
the first thing that I think he's got to do is he's got to get with Vin Marino, who is the cap specialist for the Titans, and look at exactly the dollars and cents of this because while the Senior Bowl is coming up, and that's going to be something he's going to be working in another avenue because he's going to have all that going on. But you've got to get a grasp of where this cap situation is and what this roster is going to look like because they're clearly going to be over the cap in March 18th or whatever it is, and you're going to have to make some difficult decisions. The roster turns over 30% every year anyway, and this may be one of those years where it's a little more than that. So I think that's the first thing is getting the landscape of what this – because I'm sure, much like John Robinson over 6 years ago, you drive and beat the pavement enough going and looking at prospects, you probably have conversations with yourself about if I was driving the bus, here's what I'd do, and here's how I would – and, of course – he's been in enough organizations in the league long enough now, 15 years of experience. He's kind of seen trial and error and the good and the bad and the ugly, and seems like lately a lot of good. But I would think he'd need that first, and certainly he is going to be hip deep in draft stuff before you know it. And look, he's already been working through that process with the 49ers scouts and all that to begin with. So he's familiar with the prospects. He's just going to be doing it for a different franchise.
On the line of scouts, does that change at all?
No,
with
I don't.
a new GM coming. I'm always
I wouldn't
curious
think-
about that.
I wouldn't think this would be a change in that until
Okay.
after the draft.
Okay.
Because
You keep your same guys in place right now.
these guys have been
Yeah.
working in the
Yep.
building for months and months and months, and all these trips to see these guys play college ball. I would think if there's going to be a change in that, that's going to be late spring, early summertime project there.
Yeah.
Rhett, as far as the offensive coordinator search goes, I know we've had a couple of candidates reported interview requests come out over the past couple of days. How do you think the GM search coming to a conclusion affects that timeline? Does it allow Ran Carthon to have some input in the offensive coordinator? And when do you expect maybe the Titans have made a move in that department?
I don't know how it affects it, or if he has any influence or opinion, asked and given in that situation. Because obviously we don't. It hasn't been officially announced that he's the general manager.
Yeah.
But I would think if this is done, that certainly there would be a shift into high gear to find an offensive coordinator, whoever that is. And who knows, they may have already interviewed some people and we don't even know about yet. But also given the timeline that we're approaching here with all the draft process and all this, and you're going to want to be at the Senior Bowl and all these kinds of things. So, again, I would think that you would have an offensive coordinator in place before the Senior Bowl happens here in a couple of weeks.
I know you started looking at some Senior Bowl prospects and getting ready for that entire experience. Of course, the NFL and Senior Bowl announcing their coaches a couple of minutes ago as well, and a new format to that. Who has jumped out at you? We're very early in the process of draft and looking at some of these guys. Who are you most interested to speak to and to watch play?
So, obviously, I'm looking at offensive linemen because that's going to be a place of need. McClendon Curtis, the offensive lineman, I think it was a tackle at Chattanooga, 6'6", 328. I'm interested in him because I think there's beginning to be a pipeline there.
It is.
When you look at how early that the Patriots took Cole Strange last year, who I really liked as a guard prospect.
Mm-hmm.
That is one for sure. Rashee Rice, the wide receiver from SMU, 6'2", 203. He's getting comps like C.D. Lamb.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
Pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. Matthew Bergeron, the tackle from Syracuse, 6'5", 322, is somebody I'm thinking about. The John Michael Schmitz tackle from Minnesota is one. DeJuan Jones, the tackle from Ohio State. And obviously there's a couple of Tennessee guys here. I'm very interested to talk to Darnell Wright and Byron Young in that respect. There's a real interesting safety prospect that has come out of Boise State, J.L. Skinner.
Yeah.
6'4", 220.
Goodness.
God, dog.
Dang.
And he's getting comparisons to Ron Curse with the Cowboys, Derwin James. And I forget the name of the kid, but the big giant safety that the Seahawks took in the draft this year ended up being a starter. He's that size guy. But, yeah, and there's a corner from South Carolina, Darius Rush, who's a 6'2" corner. Ivan Pace, the linebacker from Cincinnati, is somebody that has gotten on my radar. And Derek Hall, the edge rusher from Auburn. There's plenty of that. That's the thing I think it's impressive about the Senior Bowl is how many guys are getting drafted out of being an invite to this stuff. It seems like it's gotten more important every offseason.
I agree.
The kid you're talking about, Tariq Woolen?
Yes.
Out of University of Texas, San Antonio, 6'4".
Bingo. Tariq Woolen.
210 as a cornerback.
Yeah, corner.
Cornerback.
But this,
What
so
the
anyway,
heck?
I know.
Mm-hmm. He's had a great season.
Golly.
Power forward.
That's a big guy.
By the way, some young Titan news, too. David Carr did his all-rookie team for whatever it's worth. But you got a guy that's on that team offensively, man. Chig Okonkwo.
Who is
he was
this? That came-
David Carr. With
Okay.
NFL, it was on NFL.com. I
Okay.
went on this list to see, okay, who do the Titans have any young guys on this list? There's one guy in particular. I thought MPF would make it. He didn't. The tackles they chose were Tyler Smith with the Cowboys and the Chicago Bears, Braxton Jones. But to see Chig on this list of young guys,
does he have any specialists on there?
Specialists? No, he didn't do anything. He just did O&D.
Because I'm like, man, where's Ryan Stonehouse?
Yeah.
Stoney. No, didn't do.
Isn't that something about Chigakonkwo? Like you look at his numbers at the end of the season, and I mean he ranks. PFF had him up there with he was basically one of the better performing rookie tight ends in the league.
Yeah, and the last sentence of his write-up as far as Chigakonkwo goes on this all-rookie team from David Carr says, the Titans must be happy with what they saw from Okonkwo with Austin Hooper set to hit free agency in March. So in March, that's pretty cool for the young guy.
And Austin Hooper may be somebody they entertained in bringing back.
I'd bring him back.
1-year deal, and he certainly came on strong through the middle stretch and down the end of the season.
Yep.
But, glad Chigakonkwo is a Titan. Like him a lot.
Oh, too.
Rhett Bryan with us this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. Amy Adams-Strunk told Jim Wyatt in her official interview about the opening and about the job, Rhett, that she wanted collaboration. She wanted the head coach, the GM, to be completely in lockstep on the same page. You think about a guy at 41 years old whose dad was a fullback, played back in this league 3 years from 04 to 06, has a Super Bowl ring in his short stint with the Indianapolis Colts. I saw somebody tweet out a picture of Vrabel and Carthon yesterday and say, yeah, my head coach and GM can beat up your head coach and GM. It feels like these guys are really of the same mold, but at the same time, too, Rhett, Kyle Shanahan is one of the more forward-thinking head coaches in terms of the way his offense is arranged in the National Football League. It feels to me like you're getting a good mix of new but also old-school Bill Parcells, Bill Polian football that Mike Vrabel really comes from here as well.
At first glance, I would agree. I think you're getting some fresh ideas. Like I said, I feel like he's a think outside the box kind of guy just because of his association with the 49ers and that organization and how all that has worked out. I mean, they've still got to figure out the whole Trey Lance situation because here they've hit on Mr. Irrelevant quarterback. That's going to be an interesting thing to watch. And then Jimmy Garoppolo, who knows what happens there. But, yeah, I feel like he is I feel like he is a Titans general manager by the characteristics that we're reading about and the things that we're hearing about from people who have worked with him.
That's going to be interesting, too, considering his ties. I think it can be correlated to when you bring in new guys, outsiders from your organization, too. Vrabel was an outsider in a sense. And Vrabel continues to do business with the Houston Texans in the sense of, finding guys or Patriot guys early on in his career. It will be interesting if you have, Ran Carthon in a position to where that Trey Lance conversation or Jimmy G becomes, okay, where can we bargain some guys? I mentioned earlier McGlinchey is going to be a guy that had, his free agency this year. Where are you into that entertainment, Rhett? I know you're not making these decisions.
No one would ever trust me with that.
The conversation we have, though, is you're familiar with what you had in front of you.
The devil you know.
Yes,
it's the devil you know.
Yeah, there we go.
100%. No, and look, we've seen this in many places in the league. And, you look at, like the general manager of the Detroit Lions.
Right.
Came out of that Rams, pool of talent.
Yep.
And, look at who their quarterback is Jared Goff. I mean, so, yeah, it's a common thing with who you know. If you scouted and procured the talent, if they're a guy that you like and he can produce yeah, you're going to have conversations and bring that person into the fold, especially, I mean, good Lord. Think about DeMarcus Walker in this, who spent a year with the Texans last year.
Great.
But there we go.
I mean, that was a nice pickup. I like DeMarcus Walker.
And if you don't get a tackle in the draft, I'm on board with saying I like Mike McGlinchey. Okay, I'm just going to throw that out there. And NPF is young enough to swing him to the left. I'm all for that. That's where you start to build. So in the first round, you could do something else. As Will said earlier, like we speak about draft, but free agency happens before that.
And Will's right.
Yeah.
You don't want to get the cart before the horse. You're still evaluating future talent as it's coming, the draft is coming to fruition.
Absolutely.
But yeah, because the new fiscal year and all of that comes first, it's the line of thought of, do you reload with free agent talent after you've done some things with the cap, or is it going to be draft heavy? Mm-hmm. You're going to know some things by the way, whatever moves are happening in free agency as to how it's going to work in the draft, because I feel like there's a different philosophy depending on what general manager you're talking to as to how things are assembled.
Yeah.
And this is a guy, too, Rhett, that's been really active in the trade market. Just in 2020 alone, traded Matt Breida for a 5th-round pick, traded a 3rd in the future and a 5th for Trent Williams, one of the best left tackles in the game from Washington at the time, who had no interest in being in Washington anymore.
The best tackle in the world.
Literally. The world, Craig.
The world, Craig, the world.
He traded DeForest Buckner to the Indianapolis Colts for the number 13 overall pick in 2020. That turned into Javon Kinlaw, who's been injured really his entire career.
Can I say this
out
too?
Of South Carolina, yeah.
In 2020, he actually had a real good rookie season too. His has been more injury. He's more interior guy than he is outside rusher. Right. But that 2020 season, he played in 14 games, started 12, 33 total tackles, had a sack and a half, and he also had an interception. And then 2021's been injured, and this year also just recently activated. To say, I don't want to label him a bust because that first-year production says, oh, he can be a dude, just for clarity.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
But you have, the salary dumps in this, too. He traded Marquise Goodwin, a 6th and a future 7th, just for a 6th in 2020. And then you look at this year and the trade he made for Christian McCaffrey. That was the trade of the season in the NFL. A 3rd, 2nd, 4th in this year's draft, and then a 5th next year. The trade history with this guy and the pro scouting and the element of that from a director of player personnel on the pro side is fascinating to me. And he's been a part of some really big trades. And Jared Goff in 2016 when he was in L.A. as well with the Tennessee Titans.
Well, let's start with the Christian McCaffrey trade, which, first of all, have you ever seen a guy just breathe new life into the whole situation by a change of scenery and the whole deal? Mm-hmm. And Christian McCaffrey, because everybody looked at that and go, you traded all that for him, and as dinged up as he's been, golly, that's looks pretty good.
Thoughts were,
looks pretty good right now, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that looks like Christian McCaffrey of 3-4 years ago when he's, tearing it up. I mean, because Carolina used him like crazy. Because I remember when the Titans, the last time the Titans played them there in 19, that week leading into it, just doing prep for that stuff, like over 50% of the Panthers' offense went through his hands.
Yeah, that was the year he had 1,000 rushing and 1,000 receiving yards in the same season.
Right.
In that 2019 year.
So with Ran being more involved in these late round picks with the Niners, do you feel like that's anything different from him now having to make some big decisions? Because let's make this clear. He's got a hit in these early rounds, especially these first rounders, which unfortunately John Robinson hasn't been able to do as of late. I don't see a big difference with getting picks right later on and getting picks right early on. If you know, you know.
And real quick, the Titans did just make this official seconds ago on Twitter. New general manager Ran Carthon. Sorry to interrupt.
No. That's
there you go.
There it is.
There it is. It's officially official.
It is.
First of all, you're kind of supposed to hit on early picks because, and look, I'm saying this like there's some exact science to it or I've got all this general manager experience. I have diddly squat. But listen, the really good general managers in this league, and anybody worth their salt will tell you, first, second round picks, whatever, that's great. But you make your meat and potatoes out of this thing by what you do in days 2 and 3. The really good general managers that separate themselves from the others is the ones that hit on those picks. You can make all the picks in the world you want. You still have to hit on them, to your point, Kayla. Mm-hmm. But I just think about all these late round picks that, I mean, imagine where this 49ers team would be right now going against the Cowboys this weekend if they didn't have Talanoa Hufanga, who is a starter. Diamador Lenore, who is a starter, who has had a shaky year but is really finding his way. No Jawan Jennings, no Dre Greenlaw. You're like, whoa, hold on. No Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
they'd be like, whoa, well, the Cowboys are going to, it's going to be a boat race. I think it's equally as important is if you can hit on those late round picks. And not everybody hits on first rounders.
No.
John Robinson is not the only general manager that ever missed on a first round pick or a second round pick or whatever. There's been plenty of them. Plenty. You do it long enough, it's loss and averages. But if you can bolster the roster with late round talent, think about this.
Yeah.
They can be in a window now where they can compete for the next 2 or 3 years because of where Brock Purdy and Trey Lance are, depending on how that dynamic works out. Look, we know the blueprint years ago with Russell Wilson in this thing. They did it with a rookie contract with him and won a world championship and had all this Legion of Boom talent. I mean, Richard Sherman was, a fifth-round pick from Stanford?
4th or 5th, yep. 100%.
So they had these guys like that. If you can hit on this stuff.
Because that's high output for a guy that's not expected to do much.
The ROI, the return on investment. If that is off the charts, you're probably doing something right.
Yeah.
And things are probably pretty good.
Rhett Bryan has been our guest, courtesy of our friends at Farm Bureau Health Plans. Better rates, better coverage, and better service. That's why Tennesseans have been relying on Farm Bureau Health Plans for their health coverage for 75 years. Rhett, thank you.
Thank you all. Have a lovely day. And here we go with Ran Carthon.
It is official. Ran Carthon, the new general manager of the Tennessee Titans. We'll read you Amy Adams Strunk official quotes as the Titans go ahead and make the hire for the turnaround of Tennessee. We give you more details coming up next to finish off the show at Ramon, Kalen, and Will, 104.5 The Zone. Titans make it official. They've got a new general manager in Music City. Ran Carthon, officially the new head man in Tennessee. One final segment this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will is powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors right here on 104.5 The Zone. Amy Adams-Strunk releasing a statement that says this: "We are excited to add Ran to our organization as our new general manager. He brings a variety of valuable experiences to our team as a former player and a successful personnel executive for multiple teams." Amy Adams-Strunk goes on to say, "I was impressed with his natural leadership qualities and his ability to connect with people. With talent evaluation being critical to this role, the roster they have built in San Francisco stands out. He played an important role there, constructing one of the league's best teams." There you go.
That's what you're looking for, one of the league best teams. You lose 7 games because you ran out of talent. You lose 7 games because there was nobody available for you. Yes, the idea that Siri wanted to be in
All right, Siri.
conversation.
Whoa, butt out,
My
Siri.
entire statement there, and I was asking if that was okay with her. Thank you, Siri.
Again, the optics on this hiring, it's an outsider. It's somebody that's been at different organizations where you see the Falcons and Petrino just be the total dumpster fire of the league for a while. He was there. Watch that rebuild. You get Matt Ryan, and then you move up. You go to Seattle. You go to St. Louis at the time and have a team there was working its way through, transition to L.A. and watch that team build up and be a part of a Super Bowl run while also drafting a guy by the name of Aaron Donald. That was a part of that lineage too. And then to go to the 49ers where there was another dumpster fire of an organization. And you look at the record in 2017-18 before they actually got to this point, you see a guy that's worked his way up and be around the schematics of building a team, drafting guys, finding out free agency, the scouting department, and you have a guy that watched that flourish into what it's into right now with some of the best players in the entire league. One of those guys being one of those particular guys that, and Deebo Samuel, that reset the wide receiver market. You get Trent Williams in free agency. You get Christian McCaffrey, who pretty much exploded their offense in free agency. I say to myself, look at the track record. If it's good, it's good. Sometimes to pick up a bunch of knowledge, you just got to be around. You got to grow within it. He has a background with his father. I'm not advocating for it. I'm more optimist. I'm the first one to say that in this conversation. But just go look at the dirt that he inherited at the places that he was at, and you got to kind of say to yourself, maybe he understands the genetic side of finding talent. He understands how you work a machine into being a competitor like the 49ers are. And also you don't run out of gas with your team because you don't have the personnel. Mm-hmm. You don't go get, and I'm sorry to say this, he's still a professional player. You go find a non-Dennis Daly type. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think the biggest part of this statement that sticks out to me is the experience he's had. Clearly, he's been able to build those leadership qualities. Those kind of come naturally too with people, but the ability to connect with people all over in football. He's been able to build that throughout his career as he's climbed the ladder. And then the other thing, like you mentioned, she specifically put out, evaluation, talent evaluation being critical to this role. And the roster they've built in San Francisco stands out.
Yes, ma'am.
So she's looking at where he has been recently and the success they've had and say, we need to have that same success. This is our standard.
That's what she said at the beginning.
We are back at it again tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Coach Mack, ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, scheduled to join us. Appreciate Rhett Bryan and Mike Renner giving us a couple of minutes. Check out the podcast if you missed any of our reaction show to Ran Carthon, officially now becoming the general manager of the Tennessee Titans. But before we get out of here, it's that time of the week. Midweek motivation with Inky Johnson sends you on your way. The Buck Rising Show next, right here on 104.5 The Zone.
James chapter 1 says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, when you face trials of any kind, because the testing of your faith goes on to produce perseverance, and perseverance must finish its race so that you may be complete and lacking nothing." My favorite quote in the world is Dr. King's quote that says, "You judge the true character and caliber of a man not by where they stand in times of comfort and convenience. You judge the true character and caliber of a man by where they stand in times of challenge and controversy." everybody know what to do when the sun's shining. Everybody know what to do when they get the deal. Everybody know what to do when there's money in the bank. Everybody gonna praise God when they get what they want. Everybody gonna say glory to God when there's food on the table. But very few people can thank God in the midst of opposition, adversity, challenges. And I asked one of my boys last week, I said, man, when the last time you thanked God for something that you didn't get that you wanted? And the beautiful thing about opposition and adversity, when you live with it, it teaches you. Right? It's almost as the manifestation of it, as you live with it and grow with it, it teaches you and it reveals certain things about you and others that you didn't get when it first happened and you first encountered it.